Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
How's it good? How's it going?
Doing well. Looking forward to chatting with you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like the stuff you put out. Today I've got Alec Blenis, who's an ultra marathon hybrid athlete, coach. It's always like when I get people who are like kind of in the online sphere, it's always hard to introduce you guys because I never like you're still like a one-on-one trainer too, right? You still train people in person.
Just a little bit part-time. I do like 1 day a week in person. I'm like 80, 90% online.
So do you still consider yourself like a personal trainer though?
I do. Yeah. I think part of the reason I train people in person is because I will always identify as a personal trainer. I never
Yeah.
just want to be like Alec Blenis online coach. Like I like having that in-person connection. So yeah, personal trainer is great.
Yeah, and just from like a selfish perspective too, like as a trainer, like I'm pretty much all in person. I do some online stuff, but it's like you get to really continue to evolve your skill set a little bit better. I feel like if you got live bodies, right? Live and
Yeah.
willing bodies to practice on that give you different looks, instead of having to use just yourself to figure everything out. And I think a lot of online influencers kind of like, I mean, they're great, but that is something that some of them are missing that I think can help a lot of them totally get rid of all their in-person clients when they come big enough to online. I'll always keep a crew online of my people in person because I think that's just so valuable.
100%. Like I can definitely see if you get busy enough and you've trained enough people transitioning to fully online. But I think having at least a few in-person clients just keeps you grounded too. I think it's easy to like start drifting away from the real world and like real training environments if you're exclusively online. So I think it's healthy.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you get so close to your people, you train them over the years. And it's like some of my clients, they've seen me go from like being pretty much a manual therapist first to like more like maybe an FRC lens, and they see me go more compression expansion. So they kind of evolve with you and see you evolve as well. And like I said, it's just good to never let your skill set get rusty. There's so many times like you do something with one client and something clicks in a different way that didn't work with somebody else, and now you can have that in your toolbox for everybody.
Yeah, when I love testing stuff out. Like if I have a new idea or new exercise or something like that, it's so much easier to like kind of troubleshoot it in person versus like you give it to someone online and it's like you're leaving them to kind of figure it out on their own, or like maybe you haven't really figured out like what cues should I be giving people for this. Where in person, you try something that doesn't work, you pivot, you figure it out, and it's just like on the fly, you get so much instantaneous feedback that you're like, okay, now I understand how I could give this to someone else, more easily online too.
Exactly. Like if I'm doing an online consult, like I have the main things I kind of stick to, right? And then in person, it's like again, you might be able to go a little bit more off the dome and something works that you're not going to try with somebody who's, doing a consult for an hour. Like you're going to stick to what you think is going to work pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly true. So awesome. So tell me a little bit about your background, man. I don't know a ton about you. Where are you located at?
So I'm based in Minneapolis. I was born and raised in Atlanta. I've been in Minneapolis, my wife's hometown now for the last 9 years or something like that. So originally, I never intended to get into fitness. My formal education is in physics. So I went to school like wanting to do science, but got really involved in distance running, racing, competing, actually doing competitive obstacle course racing. I don't think Spartan Race is quite as big as maybe they were a couple of years ago. But I was on their first Spartan Pro team. So I traveled around the country doing a bunch of races with them. This was during college. I ended up being really, really good at it. So people wanted my advice, and I kind of stumbled into coaching accidentally. Just people being like, "Hey, how are you so good at this? Like, how do you balance the running aspect with the strength you have to have for these
So
obstacles
so
or
you were
whatever?"
already pretty into the strength training right away with the running?
Yeah, and part of that is just because I never really specialized in a sport. Like I did distance running, track, cross country, but I also played football, I played tennis, I wrestled, I was a pole vaulter. So like I just did all of the sports, and I'd say I was good at most of them, but I wasn't like amazing at anything until I fell into obstacle course racing. I was like, okay, so I'm not the best cross country runner, but I'm pretty good. But I'm also really strong because I've been lifting with the football team and whatever. So it just worked out really, really well. Also, kind of like small and agile, so like the obstacles just came really naturally.
What
So
are the obstacles like? I mean, I'm assuming you got some walls. What else you got?
yeah, you got walls and nets to climb over. You got sandbag carries, like odd objects, Atlas stones, that kind of stuff. They're all pretty light, but
It's
you're
not it's
doing
not
it on
like
the
Tough
fly.
Mudder where you're doing dangerous shit, right? You're going like through.
It's not so much on the danger and like yeah, it's not so much on the conquering phobias side with like electrical wire and shit.
Yeah.
It's more like more on the physical side. So there's like monkey bars and
That's
stuff. The odd
cool.
objects are tricky. But to be able to do that like in the middle of a, half marathon trail run up and down ski slopes, and you got to pick up like a 70-pound bag and carry it up and down a hill
Shit.
or something like that. So nothing's like terribly heavy, but definitely being strong helps with that. But so I ended up being really good at that just from like my diverse sporting background, and then started kind of coaching people into that. And that coaching just slowly like expanded into bigger and bigger groups of people. Started working with a lot of like military and special forces athletes that also needed to be good at distance running and being able to do duo courses and that kind of stuff. And then eventually just kind of that bled into the bigger hybrid niche, especially as I continued to get more and more into strength training. I started getting people who they wanted to run a marathon and like train for a powerlifting meet like simultaneously. So I started getting a lot more of those people. So, and then from there, like it just gotten broader and broader and broader, really. And in the last, I don't know, five plus years, I think we've seen a ton of interest in more like GPP hybrid style training. Like I see a lot more even bodybuilders now like
Yeah.
getting into a little bit of cardio more than they used to. So it's been really great for my skill set because I have a pretty deep history in kind of the hybrid space. Um, as far as hybrid training goes, I've been a full-time hybrid coach since 2014, which in the grand scheme of things is not a terribly long time. But with kind of the new kind of emphasis that a lot of people are putting on it, I think I have more
Yeah.
experience in it than most.
I never heard that term until maybe 2 years ago. So that was
Yeah.
definitely early. Again, I'm a little bit on the more bodybuilding side, but I feel like a lot of powerlifters kind of got into that. Like I have, well, it's not a friend, he's a fat fuck that I know who's a powerlifter who tried to get into the hybrid stuff, and he just started going right away. And this is a powerlifter who's got the duck waddle and all the
Oh
stuff that
yeah.
comes with that, and he started getting injuries and stuff like right away. Do you have like someone like that? Do you transition them just by like volume and load acclimation, or do you do anything to get their body like better to be able to
It's
run?
it, it's funny you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of power lifters have a much tougher time than people coming from like the bodybuilding side. I feel like bodybuilders in general just train in a more balanced way. And like I see a lot of bodybuilders, they've maybe never run a day in their life, but when they start running, their gait just looks, I'm like, that's just better than like
Yeah,
a
I mean,
lot
our
of
power lifts isn't
powerlifters.
squished and turned out like
Yes.
a power lifter where they
A lot
just
of powerlifters, it's like what a penguin trying to learn to run, you know what I mean? So definitely different considerations. There's the body mass consideration, which is like a powerlifter or a bodybuilder or any like, a lot of these guys are well above 200 pounds. There's a lot of considerations just for straight body mass. But then in terms of like gait and some injury stuff like that, there's a longer, kind of steeper learning curve if you're coming from some of the strength sports that don't lend themselves to as good of gait mechanics and that sort of thing. Um, I think a lot of that is not so much the fault of the sport itself, but just some of the things you can get away with training for that sport. Like I don't think that powerlifting is going to, you don't have to be a powerlifter that walks like a penguin. Like I feel like
yeah.
that's partly a choice and like a result of maybe some suboptimal programming practices, not doing certain accessory lifts or secondary lifts or whatever, as much as you could. So a lot of it is just kind of restoring some variability with like accessory exercises and that kind of thing. But then just being smart about like, don't ramp them up too quickly with the running. Like so much of it is load management. And so many of the issues that I see and that I troubleshoot for people, I'll be like, tell me what you've been doing. Like, why is running killing your gains? Why do your knees hurt? Like trying to figure this out. And they've just gone from 0 to 60 too quickly. Like they've just ramped up running at a rate that would be appropriate for like, you know, a detrained, deconditioned, middle-aged person that isn't 250 pounds and doesn't, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they'll follow like a standard, couch to 5K program, which by all means is like generally a pretty conservative program, but it's still too fast for someone, with their anthropometric characteristics and their gait and that kind of thing. So a lot of load management, some kind of, restoring variability, that kind of thing, but load management is by far the biggest thing that those people need to think about.
Yeah, yeah. The restoring variability is so big too on powerlifters. Someone because they said most of them. There are some that don't. I think who's a hack. He's one of the best ever, and he lifted with pretty good relative motion compared to most powerlifters. But right, most of them everything's bilateral and just locked in place. So I imagine you start trying to get them into like lunges and things where that promote a little bit of a turn, make sure they can't just be in that braced extension. And honestly,
Yeah.
man, you're big on those fucking lunges. I see you doing like what three? What's your most you've done on a back lunge?
Reverse lunge, best one's 4 plates,
Four
which
plate.
at I did that weighing 160, so it's like a little over 2.5 times body weight in a lunge.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I'm big on the single leg. I like landmine deadlifts, but really any single leg hinge. I've gotten to 7 plates on a single leg landmine deadlift. So definitely big on the single leg work. I'm always careful with it because I feel like it's a slippery slope. Like I'm a really big fan of single leg work from the perspective of like there's tissue like your glute med and your piriformis. Like we want to load that tissue and load you in that kind of single leg stance position. But I feel like some people interested in running take it too far and they like start trying to mimic gait too much with their strength exercises at the expense of load in that tissue development. So like sometimes it's a fine line where I'm like, yeah, single leg work is great. Like doing some of this gait specific stuff is great, but like we need to keep it heavy too. Like we want to continue to be driving adaptation. And I think some people just take the specificity element too far, but by and large, I'm a big fan of unilateral work for sure, especially for someone that comes from that background. I work with so many people from a powerlifting background that you try to get them to like IR on a single leg deadlift and they just can't. Like they just open up.
No.
I'm like, it's crazy. So like some of that stuff, like you don't even appreciate like for how strong some of these people are,
Exactly.
how bad and how weak they can still be when you force them into some of those
Exactly. Like a
positions.
back
So
lunge for one of these powerlifters who can squat 600 pounds. I mean, they can probably maybe put 135 on and keep it somewhat. Like they don't have a lot of that ability when in that split
yeah,
stance
they
position.
just they feel so unstable because they don't want to IR. They like try to open up and
Yeah.
like rotate, and then it's just this like unstable mess. So I'm big on like not overcomplicating it though, in terms of like if we can just add some constraints, whether it's getting you on a machine variation or like placing your hand or a block or something, just like telling people which way to reach a knee or something like that. I feel like there's generally pretty easy and simple ways to like force people to get into the positions you want versus like put the bar back, like let's get you on the ground and doing all these drills. There can be a time and place for it, but for the most part, I find that just like good personalized exercise selection and like a few smart creative constraints can do a lot.
Yeah, tons. And that's something that like everybody that gets into like the whole corrective or expansive compression or whatever kind of side you look at, it's like that's always the thing is like when do we need to have this person on the ground and do the boring shit and when can we just program it and do it right and my feeling is if you've got a little bit of space and we can utilize it, let's do it. If we got no space and we got nothing to utilize, then let's create enough so we can do something. And some people, something I think us trainers take it like for granted sometimes, and I definitely did when I was younger, is like how blessed we are kinesthetically sometimes, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to the general pop. And so it's like we'll be like, well, why can't you just do that? Like you should be able to. And sometimes you just gotta like either take a step back and regress it or take away gravity or something. But I definitely think that a lot of people who are a little bit newer to the game that have your approach, a lot of them think that people will have the same capabilities sometimes.
It is like there's no one size fits all approach because like some people they'll do something and I'm like, hey, stop doing that. And they stop doing that. Like it's just
Instantly. Yeah.
they just figure it out. And then other people you tell them and they don't get it. And maybe you say one cue, you try another cue, but like I'm not gonna fight that hard. Like if I try 2 or 3 cues and I've like tried explaining this for more than 60 to 90 seconds, then it's like all right, it's probably not going to be the fourth or fifth cue that comes out
Yeah,
my mouth
exactly.
that's going to do it. Like we probably need to try a different exercise or like get on the floor or whatever. So I won't fight that battle too hard. I don't know. People talk about like what's the best cue for this, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to say cueing's overrated, but like if one or two like simple cues isn't doing the trick, like I don't know. You probably want to move on to something else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's interesting because like I've like really cut down on my cues as I've progressed, in my fitness career. But it's like if you just pretty much keep your foot contacts where you want them, you keep your head where you want them, you're just aware of a couple things. That's 90% of the cues you could ever need. Just directing attention into the ground pretty much, or with your hands, depending on what you're holding.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you have like foot pressure and then like one kind of target, like if you're doing a squat, like a target for your knee or a row, a target for your elbow or something like that. If you have good foot pressure and like a good target for one body part, I feel like it's kind of hard to fuck up too bad.
Yeah, exactly. So what all? So you've done some pretty long distance stuff. Have you done some like ultras?
Yeah, I've done a lot of ultras. I don't know the exact count, but got to be well over 50 at this point.
Holy
Um,
fuck!
I've
So
done a lot of racing. I've done a lot of ultras.
what's the longest you've done?
The longest I've done is I finished a 70 miler. And then there was a longer race that I dropped at like mile 80 or 90. This was many years ago, but I've done 70 a couple of times.
Jesus. Were you injured on the 80? You were just dealing with some pain and you had to stop, or what was the issue there?
I was bored as hell, dude. It was and so like I feel like going into an ultra, like it's such a big event. It's a big energetic commitment. You like got to be doing it for the right reasons. Like when you get out there, there's so many reasons to stop. And I think if you get out there and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, or you just stop having a good time, which was the case for me. I got out there, it was 100 miles in a straight line along a railroad bed in the middle of winter, self-supported, dragging your own gear. And I got to like mile 80 and there happened to be like a support van and they're like asking how I was doing. And I was like, I'm just not having a good time. Like, I'm not having fun.
That's
And
so
they're
close
and
too.
and they're like, you only got like 20 miles left. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm so over this. Like I've been running in a straight line in the dark for like 15 hours. I just want to go home. And I don't know. It's like a lame excuse, but in the broader context of like all the ultras I've done, I'm like, I've done cool ultras like in the mountains and with views and like there's so many like there's another one. I just get me out of this
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Listen to yourself, that you can tell you're not like a pussy or a quitter. Obviously, you've done some crazy shit. Like
Yeah.
what drives you to do that? That's fucking miserable. Like, do you think you get like off, you get some like adrenals or you get some like dopamine hit or what drives you to do all these crazy endurance things?
Have you ever done like you ever done magic mushrooms at all?
Yeah, just recently, actually the last like 6 months. I had never really had any experience before.
Okay. I'd be curious what your experience was with that, but I almost view it as like a variation of that where like the experience is one thing, but it's what you feel afterwards and like
Yeah.
a sense of calm and peace and connection or whatever that can last for weeks or months or years even. And I feel like for me, when I do a sufficiently challenging, especially like sufficiently beautiful, like out in nature ultra, like running the mountains for 12 plus hours, yeah, it sucks. But then like everything, like life, stress, everything just slows way down. It feels like it's going in slow motion for like months afterwards. And I love that experience and that feeling. And sometimes if I go too long without doing something like that, and I like feel myself getting maybe agitated at little things that I know aren't a big deal, I'm like, I think it's time for another ultra. You know what I mean?
Do you think that doing this stuff and the way you train has an effect on your personality? Because you seem like really like chill. Do you think?
Maybe, I don't know. I've been doing it for so long. I'm sure there's a connection there. I probably wouldn't be as calm and chill if I wasn't as into fitness. I think it definitely keeps you grounded.
And so I'm not real I'm not real informed about what the Murph is. You hold the world record in a Murph. That's like a push-ups and pull-up kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Murph it's a famous CrossFit workout. A lot of people around the country and the world at this point do it every Memorial Day in honor of Michael Murphy. And it's 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, another 1 mile run, all with a 20-pound weight vest. And the official kind of record format is to do that all unpartitioned. So a lot of people will do like 10 pull-ups, 20 push-ups, 30 squats for 10 rounds. And I have the record for doing all 100 pull-ups, then 200, then all 200 push-ups, then all 300 squats. So in that order.
You
Uh,
do that one time or you do that every time you do the mile? It's just one
it's just one of each. So 1 mile run, 100, 200, 300, and then concludes with a second,
another mile.
second
Okay.
mile run.
So
Yeah.
100 pull-ups. Fuck. That's all. I
Yeah.
for a long time I used to set 50 as my goal and I would do as many as I could. I got like to 30 or so. So these are you're like kipping or these are
Well,
strict
these
pull-ups.
these are these are CrossFit like butterfly
The kip
style.
ones? Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you probably had some left in you.
Yeah, I mean the thing with that, I think the workout is one, it's all about strategy. I think most people they go out and they bite off more than they can chew in terms of big chunks. So like even for me doing the 200 push-ups with the weight vest, I knocked those out in like 6 minutes or something for the 200, which is pretty quick. But I only did five at a time. I did five push-ups every 12 seconds. So to like because you want to just keep the blood flowing. If you do too many reps at once and get too
Oh,
close
too
to
pumped. Yeah.
failure, yeah, then you can't recover from that. So like being able to partition it and break it up, I think a lot of that is the strategy. I'm sure that someone's going to figure that out and beat my time, but I just like tried to be as smart as I could about it in terms of how I broke things up, and that was huge. The other is I'm short and I have short limbs, so that definitely helps.
Well, not for the running
So
so much though, right?
yeah, not as much for the running. That's a little bit more neutral in terms of height. But like the guy that I took the record from, he's like 6 feet, and I'm
Oh
like
shit.
5'5". So I kind of felt bad. I'm like, you got a lot more a lot more distance to
Yeah.
cover on those reps,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. And then have you done triathlons and stuff?
I've done a few for fun, to be honest. I'm a shit swimmer. I don't like it, and I have no desire to get good at it. I did a few tries and I'm like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, no, I sink like a fucking rock. I used to be
Yeah.
somewhat decent, and then no, now I just can't at all. Man, so
Yeah.
were you big
I
in?
like biking though.
Yeah, were you big into like CrossFit when that was a thing?
I don't think I was never big into it, but it was definitely a big influence in my early training. That's one of the first like gyms I ever walked into was a CrossFit gym actually. So that definitely influenced my early programming and just some of my views on fitness, but I didn't really stick around it too long or get too deep into it.
With all these like ultra endurance stuff and the obstacles, have you suffered any injuries competing?
I've been fortunate for the most part. Um, some sprained ankles and that kind of thing, like on trails, but generally nothing too serious. Early in my running career, I had like some IT band syndrome and shin splints, like a lot of things that new runners have to overcome. But generally nothing too bad. The most serious injury I had was actually stupid. I was like jumping over a fence in the city and tore my soleus.
Oh man,
That
ooh, I've
was
never
a
heard of someone tearing the soleus actually.
yeah, it was kind of rough. My clothes got caught on like one of the like spikes in the top of a fence, and so I like fell over the fence all weird and landed on one leg. So that was kind of shitty. Um, and
That must have
then
been torture for you, not being able to run and shit.
yeah, it wasn't terrible. I had to take I think 8 weeks off of running completely and then start back with like 1 mile at a time kind of thing. But I think it was just a partial tear because like I was still able to do some like machines in the gym and that kind of thing. I just couldn't dorsiflex very much. I had to stay like real heel heavy. I could do like keep all my weight on my heels and do Smith
Yeah.
squats and stuff. So like I could kind of work around it a little bit. And then the most annoying thing I've been working through recently is like a partial groin tear on the adductor machine. This was like 10 months ago, but like every injury I've ever had, every little minor thing, I feel like I've always bounced back from super quickly. This groin injury from the adductor machine, just like there's just like a little bit in there that's like, why won't it get that like it's like 99% better, but not 100. So that's been a little bit annoying. But I think
Just-
overall, like pretty fortunate, and most people deal with some like little things like that.
I know a lot of bodybuilders that have the same issue because the adductor's a big bodybuilding move to add that thickness and kind of make it look like you got bigger quads when it's the adductor. Was it just on the machine?
Yeah, it was.
Which side was it?
It was my left side, and it was on like the last rep of the set, trying to like finish the squeeze, and I just heard like a pop,
Yeah. Oh.
right, yeah, right in the insertion, and it honestly didn't even hurt that bad. Like it hurt a little bit. I was like, oh, it's gonna be sore for a couple days, but it just like the next day it was worse, and the next day it was worse, and I was like, what the hell was like, it's worse than I thought. And it's just
Out of
like,
all the shit you've done, this little fucking
yeah,
adductor machine.
yeah.
It's like annoying because it's not bad, so it's like it's not like you've got to put a lot of energy or focus or think about it, but it's like just enough to kind of be there.
It was just enough, and I think in hindsight, I probably should have like been a little more generous with it in the acute phase. I think I was probably just like a little too aggressive because that's usually worked for me in the past. I think I just pushed it a little hard and like made it more chronic than it probably would have been. Um, and then like it got to the point where it was just like continuing to bug me, and then I like kept having to pull back. You know, I was like, I should have just like pulled back a little bit
Yeah.
more initially, and then I probably could have pushed harder sooner.
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, so this is a good topic. Someone I think had a question about it too, and I think you put out some pretty good information on like recovering from injuries and kind of just give me your philosophy, I guess, on this kind of let's. I think it's kind of helpful to think about it in two terms, right? You have like an acute injury and then you have chronic stuff. So let's think about like an acute injury. What's your take on how to come back from that, assuming this isn't like something you got to have reattached or surgical intervention or anything like
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. So like barring any red flags like that, where like you gotta, have some sort of intervention. Like long story short, just kind of calm it down and then build it up. Um, Calming it down can take a variety of phases or a variety of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It can look a lot of different ways, but I think total rest is generally not a good
Yeah.
idea. I think people they try total rest for a short period of time instead of backing off but not resting completely for a longer period of time. So a lot of people they'll tweak something, or even in the case of like maybe overtraining a little bit or tapering for an event, I think it's like a common thread that applies beyond just injuries, is they think that they're going to get a lot out of just like taking a couple days off. Or it's like you're probably gonna have to keep applying some stimulus, but it's gonna be a 2, 3, 4 week like longer period of getting something to actually calm down. So in that phase, I'm generally like trying to either avoid pain or at least minimize it, usually keeping it below like a 2 or a 3 out of 10. Unfortunately, there's no golden rule on that of like, is 2 out of 10 pain going to
Yeah.
yield better results than
And
4 out of 10
everybody's
pain?
perception is different. You got some psychos who feel no pain, and then you got
Right.
some pussies who feel tons of pain.
It's always different. So like my general rule, I kind of will throw out like, let's try to keep it below 3 out of 10, but it can definitely vary. And I'm more so looking for, rather than like, what is the pain right now? I want to track how it responds. So like if you feel 5 out of 10 pain during the set, but then you feel great like afterwards and tomorrow, then like I'm generally okay with that. On the flip side, if you only feel like a 1 out of 10 pain during what we're doing, but then like you can tell afterwards that it's been aggravated and like it's more sore tomorrow than it was when you started today, then it's like, all right, we probably pissed it off a little bit. So during that acute phase, that's generally what I'm looking for is let's try to keep pain on the lower end. And then hopefully we can find a level of stimulus that is, leading to maintenance or improvement of symptoms and certainly not, making it worse. But I also don't want to catastrophize and freak people out if there is a little flare up. Like if we push a little bit too hard, so that's not the end of the world. Like we're not necessarily like severely re-injuring you or doing any super significant damage. It's just kind of a yellow light or like a warning sign that we might want to back off a little bit. So that's my general approach in terms of like pain and that sort of thing. I
Do
tend
you
to
sorry, do you incorporate like you doing like negatives or isometrics, anything like that if it's something acute?
uh I have mixed feelings. I think that the like overloaded like eccentric focus stuff is uh probably a little overrated. Like I'm not huge on that. Um
I
I
love
think that
isometrics though.
I think isometrics can be really well tolerated. Um, for some people, I think you like the isometrics are great because they're well tolerated in a way that like traditional scaled um, full range strength training would not be. But for other people, I've seen it's like they can kind of train, and as long as we scale it, they feel okay. Sometimes I'll base it on like, okay, what sort of load can we get? So if you can train with 100 pounds regular range of motion before aggravating symptoms, but you can do like a 300-pound ISO. I'm like, okay, we could probably benefit from like still getting you exposure to some of that heavier loading with isometrics as we like let your full range capabilities keep up. But if it's someone that's like, there's not that big gap between, and or we do ISOs and they don't have that big like kind of pain relieving effect that some people get from them, I'll be like, yeah, like either way, like I don't think it's going to make as big of a difference. So I think there's some individual variation in a response in terms of like how much someone's going to benefit from the ISOs. And I think we see that too with like when we look at like people always spit out that like we need to strain the tendon 4 to 6% to like get tendon stiffness adaptations. And then they'll say like we need at least 85 or 90% or some percent 1 RM to be able to deliver 4 to 6% tendon strain. When we actually look at the data, the curve is super wide. Like some people are able to get 4 to 6% tendon strain from relatively low loads, and some people need to be a lot closer to 1 RM. So I think in terms of the benefit that we're going to get to someone's tendon, in terms of like recovering from an injury and that kind of stuff, I think that depending on the person and their baseline strength and baseline tendon stiffness and that sort of thing, we might see some people benefit more from like being able to leverage some of those heavier loads, or for some other people, like the lighter to more moderate loads might be sufficiently demanding to still stimulate and get the response that we're looking for. So I try to be open to that and just kind of base it more on the individual in front of me versus like, on average, this is what's best.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the problem with a lot of people that put out the information about the studies is right. Like I feel like again, like once you dive really deep, you can see there's a lot more availability, and there's also like some not always the best sample sizes and stuff. It's kind of wild. I really like how the industry's kind of like taking a more nuanced view. I feel like it's not throwing out science, but now in the last just year or two, it's starting to look at a little more nuance, and I think that's really good.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it is just like more people realizing how, not that we can't learn anything from the science. I don't want to like talk shit on the science too much because I think there's a lot of great stuff going on
Yeah.
out there, but like a lot of the study qualities are not that great. Like when we look at what's the difference between like, your average like really shitty exercise science study versus like a really, really high quality anecdote from like a
Yeah.
coach who has 30 years experience. It's like it's actually not as different. Like I know we have the hierarchy of evidence with like randomized controlled trials and anecdote and expert opinion, but like I think they all get blurred. Like those lines blur a little bit with exercise science for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, it's just a hard field in general to be give super specific recommendations on.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's such a wide range of just like people and like our strengths and weaknesses, like with the ISOs and stuff. I explained like some of the individual variation in response to loading with like tendon stiffness, but like in terms of ISOs for someone recovering from an injury, I tend to lean more towards ISOs with people who are stronger and more experienced. Whereas like a lot of people who are like more novices and they strain something, I'm like, I I don't think anything's gonna make that big of a difference. Whereas
Yeah.
for someone that's like really strong, I'm like, yeah, I think continuing with some like really heavy ISOs is probably gonna like help maintain some of your strength and like drive some of those tendon adaptations. Whereas someone more deconditioned, like I think just even a set of 10 is probably gonna get some of the tendon adaptations we're looking for, kind of thing.
Are you big on like just having to regress if you need to with someone who's recovering from an acute injury?
Just like taking load off the bar or
Or,
decreasing
or
volume
or
or
either that way or just taking, like changing the load management, whether taking where the load is, front or back load, or changing more ER bias versus IR bias if they're like a shoulder issue or something.
so my general approach is I want to focus on the injury, obviously. So like if you injure your knee, I want to do some stuff for your knee. But I think a common mistake is people underestimate and underappreciate just the value and like non-specific benefits of exercise. And yeah, maybe you're not able to push your knee as hard as you want to during this time, but there's probably a lot of other things that you've been neglecting. And this would be a good time to work on that because you have some additional energy and time. So I never want to tell someone like, hey, your knee hurts because your IR sucks and like that's why you got hurt. Like I think that's just probably a little bit of a logical leap. But if someone's knee hurts, and I'm like, hey, your knee hurts and your IR sucks, if we strengthen your hips and work on your IR in the meantime, like you're just going to be a better, more robust, more resilient athlete
Nothing
all
bad's
around. When
happening.
you nothing
Yeah.
nothing bad's happening here, so like it's a good thing to work on. So I'm careful with how I like deliver that and explain it. But I think when someone is hurt, it's a great time to explore some like movement variability and that sort of thing, just because like they have some of that energy freed up anyway. So why not? And if you can make even the weak case for like why it might help, then I like you're certainly not doing any harm. I just want to avoid like any potential nocebos and that kind of thing that
Yeah.
could come into it. Um, but yeah, if you have like a hunch as to why it might help and you can explain it in a way that's like very, reassuring and movement positive, then yeah, knock yourself out.
Do you do anything different if it's more of a chronic issue that someone's having? Is it still a matter of movement variability and load management?
Um, that's tricky. It also depends on if we're talking like kind of general population, like some of the people I might see in the gym for one-on-one versus a higher level athlete in terms of how much I think some like systemic, like chronic lifestyle factors and that kind of thing could be contributing to it. Um, whereas like if I have a client who barely works out at all or sees me once a week for personal training and generally is very sedentary and their knee hurts, like is it a load management issue? You could potentially argue for that, but also they're so deconditioned and so detrained. Like the last thing I want them to do is less fitness, you
Yeah.
know? So like for someone like that, I have a bias towards like, okay, talk me through like what have you eaten this week? Like how much are you sleeping? Are you staying hydrated? Like are you doing all the other things to support recovery? Because if your life is absolute trash right now, there's only so much we can do in the gym from like a load management perspective and mechanical loading perspective to get you feeling good if like the support system isn't there. So I'm definitely leaning more towards that side of things with like discussion with people if they're more on the decondition side. Whereas if you're a high level athlete, then by far like the biggest stressor in your life probably is your training. So that's the biggest area that I'm going to look at. Like what are we potentially missing? Um, I will look at someone's technique uh, as a component of load management. With technique, I think it's important not to hyperfixate or overanalyze someone's technique in isolation, like with one exercise. I think that's a common mistake people make is they look at how someone squats or whatever, and they just look at their squat and they're like, oh, that's why your knee hurts because you squat like this. I think you have to look at technique in the broader context of like, are there patterns where it's like everything you do is very knee dominant and we need to restore some variability, get some more like more hingy stuff in there or whatever. Or like you have a very like ER biased strategy for everything that you do versus, oh, you're like doing this exercise this way and this exercise this way. So I think that's important, just like taking that context into account. So with someone that has some sort of chronic injury, like if they have some sort of chronic back thing, and I look at their technique and it's like, well, are basically doing good mornings for
Yeah.
squats and have the like cat back deadlift and it's like everything you do is super just like tons of lumbar strain. It's like, yeah, that's probably a factor that we need to address. But I would never look at just a video of someone's deadlift and be like, oh, you're gonna have back problems. I think you have to look at that bigger picture, and that's the approach I take when helping someone with an injury.
Yeah, and we can get into a little bit. I want to talk maybe a little PRI with you because I'm really associated with that one. That's not my whole jam at all. But this is one
Yeah.
thing that I think PRI did help me with a lot was realizing that sometimes with these chronic injuries, and you said a lot of times, especially if it's an athlete, it's usually load management or technique and stuff. But a lot of these chronic injuries, like for me, like I had a lot of left IT band and left knee pain. And I'm the same thing way as you. I've really never been injured. All my injuries have been some stupid shit. Like I tackled a fucking snowman. I'm not around snow. I didn't know the bottom was like fucking ice and a rock. Like I like fucked up my shoulder and then I fucked up my knee just tripping in a hole in our shitty practice football field. And so like I had
Yeah.
just this horrible knee pain. And then for years, like I couldn't run and I loved running. I was a runner. Like I'm actually more of an endurance guy naturally. And there might be like a time where I could run and I would fucking like run all I could, but like most of the time, like 70% of the time, I'd have that lateral knee pain, that IT band. I just couldn't do shit. And then like for me, I'm someone who's like so turned to my side. Like once I got rid of my positional issues after dealing with this chronic issue for I don't know, 10 years, 12, fuck, 15 years, and then it's like gone and like 100% we don't even think about it. And for me, that was a positional thing that I had carried for decades and not always, of course, but a lot of times that is there's certain situations. And then good thing, a lot of times if it's legs, you can get it right with exercise selection. Sometimes the upper body stuff is a little tricky, and that's when I have to go into the kind of positional breathing stuff. But that's one thing that I give PRA a lot of credit for is kind of like again, it's really easy to overemphasize the repositioning
Yeah.
and stuff. But for me, the repositioning has been really, really big. So, what's some of your main critiques against a system like FRC? And just give me your thoughts on that in general, and then maybe we'll go into just different movement systems overall.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, this isn't even unique to like PRI or FRC or any of the three-letter acronyms that people like to cite for healing their injuries, but I feel like there's always the issue with natural history that you have to talk about whenever someone thinks that something has fixed their injury, or they're like, I had knee pain for a year and it wasn't until I found whatever that started feeling better. I'm like, well, that's cool. Like the natural history for patellar tendinopathy is, 2 to 4 years. So like
Mhm.
it was probably going to get better somewhere during that time frame. So like there can definitely be a bias of like just whatever you were doing at the time that it's starting to feel better isn't the thing that you think is responsible for the benefit. So I do think it's challenging sometimes. And I never want to like invalidate someone's experience and be like, no, you're dumb. Like that's not what happened or whatever, especially when there is, you know, plausible mechanisms at play. Sometimes it's like straight silliness and they're like, yeah, my knee pain went away when I started doing like Reiki or some shit, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's what it was, dude. But then when you get into something like PRI and it's like some of the positional stuff, it's like, yeah, I can see there's like a logical train of thought there. Then I'm more like, maybe that was it. Maybe natural history was a component. Maybe there's other things that like we're not aware of exactly what was going on, especially when we look at injuries where we can blame load management. And asymmetry obviously is going to lead to more load on one side, less load on the other. But in principle, like you could still bring down the overall stress and load management strategies would work. So I feel like if fixing an asymmetry can fix a problem, then more broad or more general load management should also be able to solve the same problem just in a different way. Like there's lots of different ways to manage load, can change position, can change the actual load, can change the training stress. So if I see someone who's like, okay, have you tried cutting training volume by 20%? Have you tried cutting it by 50%? And it's like they've tried all these load management strategies, but it wasn't until they shifted their hips 2 millimeters, that it felt better. Then I'm skeptical because I'm like, it's all load management. Like it all falls under that load management umbrella. And I can't think of a rational explanation for why, broader load management wouldn't work, whereas load management via position did, sort of thing. Not that you shouldn't pursue the positional shifts for long term, like rebalance the load to be able to push everything harder, sort of thing. But I do sometimes get skeptical if like load management doesn't work, but some sort of positional thing does, because to me it kind of is all in the same umbrella category in the long run. So I guess that's a long way of saying that I think that pursuing some of the positional shifts, resolving asymmetries, restoring movement variability, whatever, I think all of that stuff can be helpful from a long-term perspective of we want to be able to push the system to its max before things break down. But when people say like, yeah, I had pain until I fixed my hip shift, that I am a little bit more skeptical of some of those claims.
Yeah, and like I said, when you're somebody like me who is so like perfect in like a left AIC, right BC pattern, it's easy to think that the things that work for me are going to work for all my people, and that's something that a lot of people fall into, and you can't. But it's like I love Bill Hartman. He's one of the smartest guys around, and his position is everything is a positional issue, and to some degree it is, but it is manageable too by externally as well. Like you don't have to necessarily do it through the positional drills, but it's like I just drove to Vegas to work with a couple bodybuilders out there, and I'm like, I'm just so like I just immediately just hang out on there, and then I'm like I'm get out of my car and my ankle's stiff, and like I literally just elevate and just a little shift, and now I can get full pronation and walk, and it's like I know my little tools of the trade. I know my specific clients, couple little tricks that'll just get us better at handling load like right away, but it's hard to like apply that to general people and like just give advice to like the internet. You know what I mean, like without knowing exactly what's going on, what their specific things on things that could actually help a little bit. And I think that like with PRI, the main issue that most people seem to have is the like neurotic components that can come with it.
Yeah.
Whether it's from a
Yeah.
practitioner point of view or from someone who's being treated. Is that your main kind of issue with it?
That's probably my main issue with it. I think there's a lot of like, anatomical possibilism of like just because, technically your ankle connects to your hand, that like they'll see that you have ankle pain and they'll see you have like a wart on your left thumb and they'll be like, that's there's something there, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I guess it's connected, that's kind of where they get me with some of the like it's like some of the ear and jaw stuff too.
But Clint,
Um,
bite that down and that'll get your pelvis open. It's like, come on. I don't play into any of that. Like maybe there's something to it. I'm not gonna say it's all complete bullshit, but it's hard for me
yeah.
to. So I ain't gonna get any of my bodybuilders to be biting down on this shit. We're gonna do a little more practical stuff.
Well, right, and especially when like it's annoying because some of that stuff can work, but not for the reasons they say. Like clenching your teeth, or there's like so many things that you can do. You can squeeze a fist, you can like a lot of these distraction techniques, they all kind of do the same thing, but then they will cite like a specific mechanism. Or do you see this with some of the like Z health and like neuro stuff too? They'll like talk about some brain region that's activated with like if you dart your eyes one way back and forth. And it's like, I mean, I guess that's technically true, but like there's a lot of other things that are happening too, and like distractions and self-fulfilling prophecies that could be the reason why someone feels better when they do some of these things.
Yeah.
Like we can't say for sure that it's because you activated their whatever cortex, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's kind of a hard claim to prove. So that's one of the issues I have with PRA for sure. Um, and I hate to say like that I don't want to pay attention to like their fundamental principles and like judge their body of work based on the trainers I see on Instagram, but I'm gonna but I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
anyway.
Dale
Um,
Halliman.
it's the people who are the biggest PRI fans that just do the craziest, dumbest shit on Instagram, and I'm like, I don't know, like I haven't taken as many PRI courses as you, but like I hope that's not what they're teaching you, because like that doesn't make any that doesn't make any sense.
Pretty much what I use PRI for, and I mean it's just the expansion compression. I just use the PRI because it's just a little more. I've used that in past videos, so people kind of know those terms. But I use expansion compression, all that, just to create space where it's needed. Like it's
Yeah.
so easy if I see somebody who's pressing and they're obviously missing a little internal rotation. I could regress it. I could do a couple things. I can just put you in a high sideline position, like a right a line, right apical expansion, or just the high position where you're breathing, and like open up these a little bit. Now all of a sudden you got out and you can go back to what you were just doing without any kind of thing holding you back in your brain because you don't feel it at all, and you can push yourself harder. And I mean, I can see the table test, it's better, but there's also a mental component too. Like it is better and they think it's better. Maybe they think, oh, now I'm like invincible. I can really
Yeah,
like push
yeah.
this. And so there's the kind of a mind component too to it.
I think that like and I don't want to rule out like any potential like mechanisms that are going on with some of the things that people do. But I think what gets me with Pure Eye and with a lot of other things like it is that some of the people consuming that content that maybe they have, shoulder pain or whatever for a variety of reasons. If it's someone who's like a beginner, relatively
Yeah.
deconditioned, and they just like show up to the gym and try to bench and their shoulder hurts and like they haven't explored like proper individualized exercise selection, good programming, consistent program adherence. Like maybe just get on the bike and like warm up, get some blood flowing for 5, 10 minutes. Like they haven't done a lot of the like basic stuff
Just
first.
stack, have a little bit of a stack during certain exercises. That'll fix
Right.
90% of your shit.
So like they don't do that stuff and they'll pick whether it's a PRI drill or it's a kettlebell arm bar, which whatever, or a banded ER, like they do something and it works. I'm like, I'm sure it worked compared to
Yeah.
what to
Yeah,
what you were
exactly.
doing. You know what I mean? But then because they have that experience and they're like, oh yeah, my shoulder feels better when I do kettlebell arm bars before I bench because it helps, restore relative motion at the shoulder, or whatever they've been told. Then they carry that with them like forever and they're
Right.
like, and it's like you probably could have just like done more warm-up sets. Like you probably would have been fine. You're just not fit or strong or anything. You have no experience. So that's like what I don't like is sometimes there's not that context of like, hey, are you doing like are you following good programming principles? Are you following good warm-up principles? Are you choosing exercises and ranges of motion that are appropriate for you? Is your technique passable within these, ranges? They kind of jump straight to shoulder pain when benching. You need kettlebell armbar. And just that like lack of context and lack of nuance kind of drives me nuts because of what it sets people up to believe about their bodies long term.
Yeah, what I've come to realize over the years, I mean, I've really been in the compression expansion stuff like maybe 4 years. Before that, I was really more in the FRC, but I always felt there were certain limitations there. And it's funny, like you see things that make sense, and then you do like this one system, and then it kind of like all the things that you kind of had in your head, like, okay, now I can see it. So it's really easy to like, this is the system that's the system of all systems. But I think you really got to be good at picking like what's good out of it. And I think
Yeah.
that most people like probably don't need like PRI techniques to fix their issues, but some people it's like the only thing that gives them the relief, and those are the people that are like the loudest,
Yeah.
it's the ones that have tried everything and then they're there and like, oh, this is one thing finally got me, so it should be for every single person, when that's definitely not the case. Like I had a lot of little minor injuries that I was able to get over without having to do any PRI. I
Yeah.
didn't even know what that was at all. And
Well,
I
and
guess
sorry, when I see someone that has like just a shoulder problem, for example, and their shoulder hurts, if you want to do PRI this or FRC this for like your shoulder thing and it takes you 5 minutes, like I don't give a
yeah.
shit. Like that's fine. But like I've worked with people that have more like chronic pain, for example, and like everything hurts. And I've seen some of those people go down the rabbit hole where then it's like it takes them 45 fucking minutes to do all their
Yeah.
pails and rails and shit. And it's like then there's no fitness, you know what I mean? And so it definitely depends on the person. If it's an isolated joint issue and like you think something works for you, I don't really care. Like if it's working, knock yourself out. But when it starts bleeding over into like, oh, this worked for my shoulder, I'm gonna try it on my hips, I'm gonna try it on my knee, and like all of a sudden you're pushing fitness out of your program to pull some of this other stuff in, and that's where I get a little more like, all right, we gotta have a conversation about it.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on just systems as a whole? Are there any systems that you're like a big fan of?
Mm, I can't say that I am. I mean, even on the endurance side, like I think endurance training is interesting because I feel like with the strength stuff, you have all these like individual camps, like you have your PRIs and your FRCs and that kind of thing, and that exists to a degree within endurance. But I feel like endurance training is inherently a little bit simpler because it's you don't have all the exercises and body parts. It's more just like, intensity and volume and that kind of stuff. So you end up with some like um periodized training versus pyramidal training and high volume, low volume camps. Like you end up with some of that kind of stuff, but you don't end up with as many like specific systems. And I think coming from a little bit more of an endurance background, I think I've always focused more on the bigger principles of things like, volume, intensity, that sort of thing versus some of the like nitty gritty stuff that some of these systems identify themselves around. So I can't say that I subscribe to any, one system a ton. I would say that I tend to lean personally a little bit more towards like the high intensity, moderate volume side of things with strength training. But that's not really a system.
Yeah,
So
me too.
no.
I'm the same there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like people, they, like I mentioned a little earlier, like they have a hard time being nuanced about it. Like they want to almost worship something. They want to like be like, this is all good or this is all bad in terms of systems or in like influencers and stuff, right? It's like, I'm not like people think like, oh, the PRI is the best thing ever. I'm like, okay, it's not the be all end all. It can work in certain cases. This isn't like everything's good or everything's bad. Like I know it
Yeah,
all or
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know anything, you know?
Well, I get that every time I post a meme or anything, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about Dr. Mike a little bit, but like I posted I had a post yesterday that was like kind of defending Dr. Mike's curl variation, and everyone like wants to jump in. They're like, "Why are you defending Mike? Like I hate this, and that about him." I'm like, can you stay on topic? We're talking about bicep curls. You know what I mean? And it's like people just want to like go all in or all out on different people and different topics. And it's like, can we just stay on topic and like talk about an exercise for a second?
Yeah.
You know, you know what I mean? And like there's definitely room to have conversations about, people's philosophies and stuff on a bigger picture, but like people definitely struggle with that, with like being able to stay on topic and like just talk about one thing at a time versus like throwing a system out completely or embracing it completely.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be all or nothing on whatever movement system you're into, whatever influence you're into. You can take the good stuff and ignore the bad. You don't have to hate the whole system or the person.
Yeah, exactly.
And so something I wanted to talk about too that is really interesting to me because I don't think I've ever met like a high performing vegan. You're vegan, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's not something I talk about a lot because I don't know. I hate to say this, like the vegans and the meat eaters are going to come after me because like I am vegan, but I also think most vegans kind of suck because like
Yeah.
it's just like I don't know. Sometimes I'm like embarrassed to be like to identify with the group because there's so much like pseudoscience and like just crazy shit in that crowd that like I don't know. Sometimes I want to distance myself from it because for me, it's more like philosophical and ethical and that kind of stuff, but
Okay.
I also acknowledge a lot of the gray areas within that too. So I'm not like die hard, like you eat meat, if you eat meat, you're going to hell sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think just like the gray that I take with it kind of makes other vegans frustrated with me that I'm not more fanatical about it. But yeah, I've been vegan for 16 years.
16 years. So let's just talk about some of the specifics of it with what you do because it's so interesting to me. So, I mean, obviously the biggest question is like, what's your protein intake? How do you get most of your protein?
Yeah, so there's a couple like talking points with that. One, just because I am like a hybrid athlete who runs a lot and my caloric expenditure is so high, I eat a lot of food like relative to my body mass. And like when you have such a high calorie budget, you don't have to be quite as responsible or as frugal with your decisions to be able to hit your protein target. So like for me, I'm 150 pounds of lean body mass, give or take. So like I generally shoot for about 150 grams of protein as a minimum. And when you're eating 4,000-ish calories, you'd have to try hard not to get to 150. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's just like with my activity level and stuff, it's never been terribly difficult. Um, so I eat tofu. I have, a protein shake most days, beans and lentils and stuff, but I'm like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying hard or like really thinking about it. I have protein shakes because they're convenient as like
Yeah.
I don't have to cook like post workout. I don't feel like cooking. I'll just have a protein shake or whatever. I'll try to include some like tofu or some beans with dinner. But aside from that, it's really just a volume play of like,
Yeah.
eat enough food and I'll be fine. If I was gonna cut, like if I was gonna try to drop weight, my calories were a lot lower. I'd have to be more strategic for sure. But it's just not something I really had to think about.
Do you take a lot of other supplements at all besides the protein?
I do creatine, pre-workout. I'm not a big supplement guy. Um, I'm not like as anti-supplement as some. Um, but I'm still pretty conservative with like my recommendations and that sort of thing. Like unless you have a known deficiency or like a reason to take a single nutrient or something like that, I'm not big on just like mass quantities of stuff. I think magnesium you're pretty safe with. I generally do creatine, magnesium, pre-workout. I have a I do like beet powder with my pre-workout. But that's really about it.
What's the normal
I
one they recommend for vegans? Is it like the B12s or something?
Yeah, B12 is the biggest one. Uh, it's in like we fortify so many foods with it
Yeah.
that like
You
I
said you
sh
got such high calories. You're probably good. I was just
yeah.
curious.
And like I was, different sports drinks and whatever. It's like every time I look at something, I'm like, oh, they put B12 in this. Like I'm not, I'm not really that worried about it. Um, I've been on and off with like an algae sourced omega-3. Um, and I've actually looked at some of the research with like health outcomes and stuff with vegans who do and don't add omega-3. And more recently, like looking at some of it, it seems to like maybe not be as important as we thought of like mechanistically omega-3 is good, but when we actually look at the outcomes of like vegans who do and don't supplement, it's I don't know. It's not like super convincing to be honest.
Yeah, but you do so much fucking more than a normal vegan
Well,
too.
that's yeah.
You definitely don't fall into the normal category. I used to train a pretty famous vegan chef back in the day, and like she'd have like these meet and greets, and all the vegans would come out. None of them fucking looked good.
Yeah.
None of these. I'm actually in a vegan cookbook, which is hilarious. I'm doing like the exercise part, and she's doing the
Oh, that's
diet plan.
awesome.
It's like a vegan like weight loss and fitness thing, but it's hilarious because I'm out there with her fans, and they're all like asking me about what I do, and at the time I was basically carnivore, like paleo back in the day. All
Yeah.
I do is eat meat. Sorry. And so, do you do like a shit ton of like fruits and vegetables too?
I try. Like it's funny because my wife eats so much healthier than me. Like she's having fruits and vegetables all the time. And compared to me, like she's always like, how do you stay leaner than me when you like eat like shit? And I'm like, I don't eat like shit. Like I just don't eat as good as you. But I try to have like a fruit smoothie most days. And then for at least one of my meals, I just try to get some veggies in. Like I just had a veggie curry for lunch today. Um, but like I don't eat that great. Like I don't want to give anyone the false idea that I like have this perfect, like super healthy vegan diet. Um, I don't eat like I don't eat anything like super shitty. Like I'm not like living off of junk food, but I'm also like not having like tons of vegetables and fruits and like a bunch
Yeah.
of great stuff either. Like I eat like a lot of stuff in the middle.
My girlfriend, my one of my baby mamas, she was a vegan. She was a vegetarian right before we met, and she hates fruits and vegetables. Like I was like, what the fuck are you eating? Like she's just eating fucking like bread and just like the most unhealthy diet ever. I don't know how she had such a good body, but she stopped because she wanted, she thought she was couldn't put on any more muscle. And the way, I mean, again, I think if muscle gains your goal, you got to do that kind of shit pretty good, pretty accurate. You can't be fucking
Yeah.
around and just eating
My
whatever cereal.
my wife was vegan with me for the longest time, and fairly recently, she went to vegetarian so she'd get the like dairy protein because like it was a little bit tougher for her to get protein than it
Yeah.
was for me.
Are you guys gonna have kids? They say not to do that when you're having kids, right?
No, I'm
No kids?
snipped.
Oh, you
No,
snipped already? How old are you?
30.
What made you do that so young?
I didn't want
You,
kids, dude.
you were like, I mean, you can always get it undone. I told all my clients I never wanted kids. That was my whole jam. Like I was determined not to have kids, and then I fucked up and had a kid, and I was like, ah, shit.
Yeah,
It's
see,
true, man. Once they t once it's like, fuck. Now I got two, and I'm gonna have a third one eventually. So it's like that's
it's
funny,
stories
but
just like it's. I heard too many stories like that, and I'm like, you know what, I gotta get it done.
oh, so was that? I mean, obviously, you guys had that discussion before you got married.
Um, I think we were on the same page. We didn't like talk about it in a ton of detail, but
Yeah,
I
that
think
was like
yeah,
I sat down with my wife, my ex-wife. I was like, no, like before you got married, I was like, no kids, it's not a possibility. So just as long as you're okay with that, I was like, sure.
yeah, yeah. We've always been kind of like, I don't know, we just talk about stuff gradually. Like even when we got married, there was never any sort of proposal. We were just together long enough, and we're like, I guess we should do the thing,
It's so
right?
romantic. That's kind of how we
Yeah.
are. How long have y'all
Yeah.
been together?
We've been together for 10 years.
Can I ask you, like, so what is your, I mean, like I said, I didn't want kids. I'm not judging you at all, but what is your reasoning for that?
Mostly selfish. I mean, I guess entirely selfish. I just like time, money, flexibility. Like it just makes life so much easier not to have to worry about that.
Yeah, especially where I live in fucking SoCal, you might be able to do a little easier there if you
Yeah.
wanted to. And so with the diet stuff, so when you say it's more like ethical reasons, so is you feel bad about eating like live animals? That's why my girlfriend was.
Yeah, like um the environmental and like obviously no one wants to kill and eat their pet or whatever. And I think we just distance ourselves from like the the violence and animal harm that we rely
Yeah.
on to survive. I think the closer you are to it, the tougher it gets. Um, but I've just never like really accepted or been a big fan of that. So trying to cut down on animal harm and animal violence. The pushback that people always say is like, well, like just by existing, you're always
Yeah.
doing some sort of harm, and like the fruits and vegetables you eat, like animals still get killed on those farms and whatever.
They're
But
smaller.
it's like there's yeah. But to me, it's like it's not about being perfect. It's just like harm
Yeah.
reduction, you know? Um, so like if I can do a little bit less harm in my time here on the planet, then I'll give it a shot. And I know everyone does that in different ways. And like there's ways that I could probably do less harm with my choices. Like I travel a lot, which is not great in terms of like carbon emissions and all that shit. But like I have things that I do really well. Like I feel like my diet is pretty ethical and responsible. So I never want to judge someone for their choices because I know a lot of my choices are really shitty in other in other ways. But for me, like my diet, like not that I don't like food, but like I know for a lot of people, food is like a really important part of their life. And for me, like it's just not like I'm not a big food guy. Food tastes good and whatever, but like I don't know. I just don't think about it that much. So for me, like being able to contribute to a better world or society in that way by making some dietary sacrifices is super easy for me because I just don't really care that much.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, hey, you need to stop traveling because it's better for the planet, I'd be like, that's really important to me though. You know what I mean? So it's just like making good choices where I can, and like hopefully other people are making good choices where they can, but I'm not going to judge anyone too harshly.
So are you big on that? Do you do other stuff for like the environment and things? Yeah.
I try to we could all do better, right? I probably think about it more than most. Like I try to limit single-use plastic and that kind of stuff, but like definitely far from perfect.
Do you think you would be any like better, worse, or the same as far as your athletic performance if you had animal protein, like it was just fish or eggs or something?
Um, I mean, maybe a percent or two better just from like it might make life a little bit easier in some contexts, and maybe I'd stay a little bit more consistent with like having a good diet when like traveling, for example. Like sometimes when I'm traveling, I know my diet kind of like gets a little bit shitty where if I had some more options, it might be a little bit better. So that might snowball and accumulate a little bit. Um, but I honestly don't think it's gonna be that big of a difference because like I get the calories, I get the protein, I eat so much. I think it'd be pretty small percentages.
Yeah, cool.
I think my the biggest thing that is holding me back from being more muscular, which is one of my primary goals, is just the sheer amount of cardio volume.
Yeah, what does a split for you look like with doing the hybrid that you do like currently? I'm sure it changes if you got something coming up. Are
Yeah,
you getting ready for something?
so my next big event is just a marathon. I'm hoping to PR, and I got an ultra the month after that. So I got a big summer of running. But I'm a typical day, like 6 days a week, probably hour lift, hour cardio, and then on the weekends, cardio will be more like 2 or 3 hours.
Are you doing like an upper lower kind of split? How do you schedule your weights?
So this is actually pretty recent. I was doing um like 4 days a week, lower upper, and I recently switched to 6 days lower upper, a little bit lower volume, higher frequency. I've actually really been liking it. I feel like I'm actually probably training a little bit less overall, but I think a little bit higher quality, and I think I'm getting more out of it. Spreading the volume across 6 sessions versus four or sometimes five I was doing before, but yeah, just straight lower upper alternating days. I have with my legs, that's 3 leg days. I have one day that's like mostly it's a squat focus day with some accessories. One day's a lunge focused day with some accessories, and one day's a hinge focused day with some accessories. So I like build the 3 sessions around those like three key movement patterns, so to speak.
I saw you just posted earlier, right before we hopped on, using that swing squat from Pendulum. Do you like that? I've never used that. I was or not Pendulum, from Panada. Do you like
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
and
good. It looks good.
it feels a lot like a pendulum squat. It's just like a little bit more aggressive of a resistance curve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little bit steeper, so the sticking point is like a little higher up. But it feels like a pendulum squat would feel if you like put a light band on it.
Yeah. Looks pretty clean. That's over by you, that gym?
Yeah, it's an amazing gym. If anyone is in the Midwest, Los Campeones in Minneapolis is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I guess Minneapolis is a big city. I was like, why do you guys I don't got shit over at me hardly. I want that machine. That looks cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we have a really good fitness community for like we're a mid-sized city, you know. But in terms of like music, arts, and fitness, like we do a pretty good job.
Yeah. Um, I saw you real quick. I was curious about this. I saw you posted something about your grandpa on you have a podcast,
Yeah,
right? That was
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting to me because I don't know why. I've always had such a I don't know, like a respect or reverence for just like seniors in general. Maybe it's like my grandparents practically raised me. But did that have a big influence on you? Like tell me a little bit about him in general. I remember I got like a rough little outline, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's totally fair to say I was the first athlete in the family because like my brother did sports a little bit and you know my mom worked out here and there and that kind of thing. But I was the first person in the family to like take athletics really seriously, I guess. And just kind of through me doing a bunch of competitions and training all the time and stuff, I got my parents into to working out. And one of these obstacle course races I did when I was on the Spartan Pro team because I was doing it. My dad is the type of person who like doesn't want to let his son beat him at anything. Like when I was growing up, like
You
he
had to
wouldn't
earn
let me win. Like
it.
I when we would arm wrestle and wrestle, like he wasn't gonna let me beat him. So that's just the type of dude he is. He didn't work out, but he's like, if you're doing a race, I'm doing it too. I'm like, Dad, you're gonna kill yourself. Um, but so he shows up, he does it. He ends up he my dad just like shows up and does marathons with me. He's like, if you're doing a marathon, I'm doing it. I'm like, but you haven't been training. It's a terrible idea. But he has those good genetics. He can just kind of get away with it. But he called his dad. So we're doing this obstacle race. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing a Spartan race with Alec. You should do it." And I guess that same like crazy
Got
line
it
of
from
thinking,
someone.
yeah, it runs in the family because he's like, well, if you can do it without training, then I can do it without training, kind of thing. You know, he's 67 years old. So my grandpa's 67. He shows up. He does a Spartan race with us completely untrained. Um, and he has some experience because he was a Marine back in his youth. So it's not like the concept of an obstacle course is totally foreign to him.
He's got that
Um,
mental fortitude for sure.
yeah. So he gets out there and he's trying to do one of the rope climbs is one of the obstacles. You have to like climb a rope and ring a bell at the top. And he falls off and lands on the ground and breaks his ribs
Oh shit.
at 67. And I guess he went home and was like embarrassed and ashamed. He's like, I should have been able to do that. Like the fact that he fell and broke his ribs didn't discourage him from doing it again. He's like, I'm the workout, I'm the get stronger, I'm the like that's not acceptable kind of thing was his mentality. So he went from, you know, not working out at all to he just started going to his local YMCA and like signed up for classes and just like got involved in groups and then started running. And he just like went all in on fitness. And he had recently retired. So it was like, that's just his new thing.
He
So
was
now
doing ultras or he's doing marathons?
so yeah, he started running more and more and more. He ended up doing a couple marathons. He did a 40-mile ultra when he was 76.
Wow,
Um,
that's right. That's crazy.
so yeah, so having started at 67, like 9 years later to get to a 40-mile ultra is crazy. But yeah, he's super active. Like he's 81, 80 or 81 this year. And he trains like he's doing some sort of fitness for at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day, does his own yard work and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, super
So
cool
you kind
dude.
of motivated him. Like he was he working out before that? You kind of got the family into it.
No, yeah, I got the family into it. And it wasn't even so much me trying. Like I was just doing the stuff and it was just my crazy dad that was like, if you're doing it, I'm doing it. And then his dad's like, well, if you're doing it, I'm doing it kind of thing. So yeah.
Did you ever consider going in the forces or the Marines or anything at all?
Uh Not so much. Like I originally just wanted to go into physics. I was debating between like astrophysics and or like going more of a programming, like computer science route afterwards. So those were kind of the two things I was pursuing in school. That had kind of been in my head for a long time because I was always a math and science guy. I just knew I kind of wanted to go in that direction. So the fitness thing did kind of take me for a little bit of a surprise. And it was actually credit to my wife. She kind of like pushed me more in the direction of fitness because I reached a point in school where I like kind of had to decide like, do I want to really keep pursuing academia and that kind of thing, or pursue this like coaching business that I had built up on the side. And it was kind of her push that like made me go more in the direction of fitness.
Yeah, it takes a lot of times it takes a good woman.
Yeah.
Have you done like any mountaineering or like mountain climbing and stuff? You seem like you'd be really good at that.
In the context of like races and that kind of thing, definitely done like a lot of runs in the mountains. But in terms of like long, multi-day treks and fast packing and that kind of stuff, I don't have a lot of experience with that. But I would love to. Up until now, it's always been like, how far can I go in a day,
Yeah.
without having to camp out or anything.
You could do, we have Whitney down here. That's the whole thing. People, if you can do that in a day, that's pretty good. Like I could
Yeah.
totally see you climbing a bunch of 14Kers and then like breaking records on that.
Yeah, I've had Whitney on the list for sure. That sounds like a fun one. Um, this year, so the ultra I'm doing in Iceland, it's called the Laugavegur Trail. It's a famous like 34-mile route that people usually do over a couple of days, but it's like, yeah, you can do it in 5 hours.
It's gonna be good weather. It's not gonna be like,
I hope so. It
I mean, it's
should.
not like cold then, right? Or anything.
No, and it can always be rain. Like you never know if you're going to get rained on, right? But it should be pretty nice otherwise.
Nice. I have some questions that people submitted. Is there anything you want to go over at all before I bring up the
No,
questions?
dude, let's
Okay.
jump into it.
Let's see what we got. I had a few in here. I think good old Atlas had something for you. Who are some of the main people that you like to follow? Whose stuff you like that they put out?
I'm sure Atlas has a question about why I'm not meaner to Dr. Mike or something like that. Um, oh man, that's a good question because there's so many, and I feel like I don't know, people fluctuate with like how active they are, or just like what the algorithm decides me to show me that
Right.
week. Like every once in a while, I scroll through who I follow, and I'm like, why haven't I been seeing their posts? And then I'll click on them, and then like I'll see their post for like weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of weird how that works. But I would say I follow a lot of physical therapists is probably like the bulk of my follows. I follow a couple athletes and stuff too, and
Who are the
obviously
PTs you
it can
follow?
be both. Um, Katie Dabrowski, Ryan Chow, Craig Levinson, a lot of the people through First Principles of Movement are really good. Reload PT is really good. So all the people like that are connected to them are great. I like Compound Performance. I'm not sure if you know Compound Performance at all. Um, oh man, there's so many. It's a tough question to do on the spot, but uh, yeah, definitely like a lot of good PTs.
Let's see what I got. So, uh, that's I already asked you that. I have the same question. So Atlas's question though, he had a question. He's talking about he saw one of your clients doing Jefferson curls with 225, and he was just asking how long did it take him to get up there, and how conservative are you about introducing loaded flexion?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I mean the like token answer is it depends, right? Like everyone's so different in terms of how quickly they can gravitate or how quickly they can add something like that into a program. I've had people I posted on my story one of my clients recently, Eleni, when she started with me, she couldn't hinge at all. She had some low back issues, and so we introduced. She couldn't do any bilateral hinging, so like we started with some tolerable unilateral hinges, some like hip thrust, that kind of stuff, and then just without even thinking of it as a main movement, I'm like just as part of your warm up, we're gonna do some empty bar just RDLs. So it's like I'm not even worried about like what the stimulus you're getting from this is. We're just like rebuilding like psychologically that like you can do a bilateral hinge and it doesn't have to hurt. So we do like 2 3 sets of a bilateral empty bar hinge and then go on to the rest of the workout, the meat and potatoes, so we could actually load heavy. And then eventually that turned into let's do an empty barbell Jefferson curl and that sort of thing. But it was many months of like we're not even trying to necessarily like load or get a huge stimulus out of that. It's just like building confidence and like psychological tolerance and relying on other stuff to get a good stimulus. So for her, it was, it took several months until we went from not being able to bilateral hinge at all to now she's has like some of the craziest range of motion I've ever seen on like stiff legged deadlifts. I think she had gotten up to like 135 or 155 earlier this week. Whereas with Corey, so the guy Atlas is talking about, he's gotten his Jefferson curl into the mid 200s. He's gotten there really quite quickly. Um, and his deadlift in general, it already had some spinal flexion to it. So it's not like he was a super like extended
Yeah.
perfect form kind of deadlift guy. So I think he had more tolerance for it going into it. So we took Corey from like not having Jefferson curls in his program to J curls in like the mid 200s within like 8 to 12 weeks. So
Oh
there's
shit.
just like there's just like a huge range of what can happen. So with someone like that who's like you already deadlift really heavy, you already like have shown me that like you're somewhat tolerant of flexion and some of your other exercises and the way that you execute certain exercises, I will be pretty aggressive because I know that you can handle it. Whereas with other people, like I know that for some people that timetable could be, years long in some cases, as it was for me. Like I had to be really conservative myself. People see the like Jefferson curls and stuff I do now, but the reason that I've been so like adamant about them is because they were so hard for me and because I was so bad at them. Like it's taken so long to build up the tolerance where I can do that without fear or concern with what's going to happen. Because I remember when I started doing those, I think I hurt my back doing Jefferson curls with like 95 pounds when I was in college, and now I do it with like high 200s. But yeah, it's been a hell of a process. So I definitely respect for some people that's it's going to be something you have to be more conservative with.
Yeah, I've never done it the right way. There was when I first got in the FRC, they're big on Jefferson's too and segmentations. I was really trying to get in. I just, it was the same thing too is depending on your setup too. Sometimes it's easier to jump into. If you're flexion tolerant, great. If you're really loaded in extensions, sometimes you can build that tolerance a little easier than someone who's just crooked as fuck. I was just crooked as shit versus stuck in here. I like more rotation.
Yeah,
So like I would feel really good and then I wouldn't, do things right. I would maybe push it too fast and then I think I fucked myself up on like a 185. I was like, I
yeah.
jumped to that way too quick. I mean, I did the 95, I did the 135, and I don't even think I put the next week, I don't put tens on or anything. I just went to the 185. I was like, that
Well,
was
and
dumb.
it feels so different for everyone too. Like I get a lot of like total range of motion. I can go really, really deep. But when you look at how I do it compared to how even Atlas does it, or like Tasha Louis is a really good example of someone who gets a ton of relative motion at like every spinal segment. Like
Yeah, I
just
was
the
gonna
the
ask you.
articulation is
Yeah,
really good. For me, like it's not terrible, but I get so much of the relative motion at my hips, like my hamstring mobility is insane. It's a little bit less at the back than for some of these other people.
yeah.
It's like not inherently right or wrong, but it is going to change like what you feel and like what gives out. Like for me, yes, there's back, and especially when I was less tolerant of it, I would deal with some back pain from it. But now, like it's way more of a hamstring. It's like 2/3 hamstring exercise, 1/3 back exercise in terms of what I feel doing it. Whereas for other people that get a lot more relative motion at the spine, a little bit less at the hamstrings, they might feel it more as a back exercise because that's doing more of the movement.
Are you trying to coach somebody to segment, or are you just telling them just like go down? Like, how do you coach it to somebody?
Yeah, and it partly depends on what they want to get out of it too, right? So if they're trying to use it as a back exercise and they want to improve their ability to segment, then like yeah, that's what we're cueing. Some people just like the movement, like this is funny because when we talk about certain exercises, people want to know like what tissue are you training and like get really technical with it. Whereas with other movements, it's like, what are you trying to work on with a deadlift? Or like, I just want to be able to pick up I just want to be able to pick up weight, like however I can move the most weight. And I think it's less common for people to view certain things like a Zercher Jefferson or something in that way. It's more common to think of it as like, oh, it's an exercise to improve your ability to segment your spine or whatever. Whereas for some people, they're like, I don't care. I just want to be able to pick up heavy weights with my elbows. It's like that's also a valid, reason for wanting to do it. So it depends a little bit. For me personally, uh, in all of my warm-up sets, I'm more intentional about trying to get more articulation because that's kind of the weak spot for me. But my general rule is like when I get to a working set, I want to shut my brain off.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like I'm trying to do that like as I build up, and then once I cross a certain threshold, I'm like just pick the weight up off the floor.
Yeah, that's something I try to tell some of my clients because I do get obviously a lot of neurotic people coming to me after shit
Yeah.
hasn't worked, and there are times where I'll be trying to get certain things accomplished during the workout. But I always tell them like if we're going heavy, like top work set, just maybe think about your foot and your head, and you're good. Like
Yeah.
don't think about anything else. Just don't lose those. That's, Yeah, I love Atlas. He's always puts up good questions. Like what else? He had something else. He asked, "What factions do you think shot JFK?" I thought that was supposed to come
Oh,
out. Wasn't Trump releasing that? Wasn't that coming out? I thought we were supposed to figure this out.
all the stuff that Trump is supposedly going to release. He's
The
got to get
CIA,
his.
right? Isn't it CIA? That's known, right?
I don't know on the JFK question. I'll have to look into it and get back to you, Atlas. That sounds like a big research project.
We got another question. Does intense cardio exercise, like VO2 max type stuff, help with lifting?
Ooh, not really. Um, I think that's always a surprising answer for people from me. I think if you're extraordinarily deconditioned, you know, there's a baseline minimum. Just like with running, like there's a minimum level of strength that you're going to want to be able to run, and strength training will help with running economy and stuff to a degree. I would argue the same thing with lifting, where it's like a certain level of aerobic capacity is going to help support recovery and make sure that you don't have to rest for 20 fucking minutes between sets. And it's just going to help you have a more efficient and enjoyable and like be able to pursue lifting in a healthier fashion, which I think can indirectly support performance. But I think the threshold is pretty low. Like I don't think you have to be that fit. You don't have to do that much cardio, and you're probably gonna be okay.
Yeah, especially if you're like building muscles your main goal. I mean, that most of your moves, you're just sitting on the thing doing like single joint or just barely moving.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think if you like get your steps and like if you can stay relatively metabolically
yeah.
healthy, like have a good, which is not actually impressive. Like when you look at the charts of like, poor to good to excellent or whatever VO2 max is, a good VO2 max is not actually that impressive or good. I think if you can have a good VO2 max and be metabolically healthy, I think that's sufficient to maximize any sort of strength gains.
What do your steps look like? They're probably crazy over the week, right? What is your daily? I guess it depends if
Um,
you're doing a long run.
it depends. You don't get as many steps as you think in a long run, because like the strides are bigger,
I
right?
guess, yeah.
Um, so like your step rate, whether you're going slow or fast, you're doing like 160 to 180 steps a minute. So across a 60-minute workout, I don't know, maybe 10,000 steps an hour or something
Yeah.
like that. So I can get 10 miles and 10,000 steps, or I can get 2 miles and 10,000 steps going for a walk, you know what I mean? Um, so straight steps is probably not too crazy. I probably run about 40 to 50 miles a week. And then walking like on my feet. I'm pretty active. We live in the city, so like we walk places and stuff too. So get a fair amount of steps. Not as many as I used to, especially I used to teach a lot of group classes and I'd be a pacer. Like I used to walk like 2 to 3 miles per group class that I coached, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
not as many now.
You getting them fired up. Yeah, if I have a full work day, 8 hours, like I'm easily at 12,000 steps at the end of
Oh
that, and
yeah.
like easily, sometimes more. And I'm in a little space, but yeah, it's the pacing. And
Yeah.
then they also had another question. What are some low impact ways to get your VO2 max? They don't have access to an airdyne or a pool.
So I think in general, like I'm glad that more people are talking about VO2 max and that it gets them interested in aerobic fitness. But I think trying to train for VO2 max is honestly completely pointless. I think if you just train for any aerobic performance goal, you're going to get all of the benefits of trying to train for VO2 max. Uh, I think the main two categories is like there's kind of sharpening and short-term things that are going to peak VO2 max aerobic fitness, and then there's things that are going to build it more gradually and more sustainably over the long term. And so a lot of times people look at studies and they'll be like, this exercise protocol improved VO2 max the most over 8 weeks. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, but like that doesn't necessarily mean it's what you want to be doing forever or the only thing you can be doing forever. It's just a particularly good, sharpening tool, for example. And so regardless of what your aerobic fitness goal is, there's components of aerobic fitness that are very much volume dependent, and there's other components and mechanisms that are very much intensity dependent. And so if you want to maximize it, we want to have both. If you just want, mediocre, moderate levels of aerobic fitness, you can just maybe pick one. You can do a bunch of intervals and like fuck the steady state long cardio and you'll probably be fine. Just like hit some intervals and you'll be all right. Similarly, you could be like, I hate intensity. I just want to like, get a bunch of steps and like do some low intensity cardio and call it good. Like both of those approaches are probably fine if you're okay with like moderate levels of aerobic fitness. anytime we're talking about wanting to maximize aerobic fitness, we want to have the volume and the intensity dependent approaches. So that's where the most popular approach nowadays is what we call polarized training, where we combine a high volume of low intensity cardio with a low volume of high intensity cardio. So like get a couple hours of really easy, steady state, like can keep up a conversation, sprinkle in some intervals or sprint work and stuff on top of that. Um, that's the most popular approach. It's not the only approach. Pyramidal training, for example, or sweet spot training are two examples of kind of training philosophies that incorporate more moderate intensity work, where it's like sustained, like hard for 20, 30, 40 minutes at
Yeah.
a time kind of thing. All those approaches can work, but at the end of the day, if you want to maximize your VO2 max or enjoy the benefits of a high VO2 max, just pick a performance goal, a 5K, a 1 mile run, a 20-minute bike test. Like just pick your thing and just get better at it. There's not a way to get better at these sort of aerobic performance tests without improving your VO2 max in the long run. Only at the extreme, like elite levels, do we see where like VO2 max and performance diverge a little bit. Because sometimes what may optimize VO2 max isn't ideal for running economy or vice versa or something like that. Like we saw with former marathon world record holder, she regularly tested in the lab and she set the marathon world record when her VO2 max was actually at one of its lowest points because her running economy was so good at that time,
Yeah.
where she had a higher VO2 max, but it was not as efficient earlier on in her career. So like that becomes a thing at the high levels, but like most people just get faster. You'll be fine.
Are there any like cardio modalities that you're just not a fan of for whatever reason? Or is it just get your heart going, doesn't matter?
There's ones I personally don't like. I hate the rower. I suck at rowing.
I never
But
liked the rower, but that's big in CrossFit. They love that.
yeah, that's not my favorite. But like anything that people would call cardio, like row, ski, bike, elliptical, swimming, like anything like that kind of fits the traditional cardio narrative, I think is going to be great if you enjoy it. When we start getting into like uh, stuff that's like conditionally cardio, like can you use like kettlebell circuits and that kind of stuff? That's a much more nuanced discussion and ultimately comes back to like, okay, how good do you really want to be at cardio? Like
Yeah.
if you're okay with moderate levels of cardio, then just get your heart rate up. If you want to be pretty good at cardio or like you're not, accomplishing your goals and seeing the results that you want from some of that kind of stuff, then we can talk about what would be a little bit more ideal.
Next, we got else. I don't know what this is. What you know what OTS is? I
Uh,
didn't I have no idea what that is.
what's the full question?
This is have you ever dealt with OTS?
Oh, probably overtraining syndrome.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, I'm sure you have to have at some point so you know where to back off a little bit, right?
yeah. I mean, there's like full blown, like, clinically significant overtraining syndrome where like your hormones are going to crash or your
Yeah.
testosterone's going to be in the shitter. I don't know, or I don't think I've experienced it to like that significant of a degree. I think I don't want to say that there's no such thing as overtraining because that would be a stretch. And I know some people will say the line of like, there's no such thing as overtraining, but just like under eating
Oh, under recovering, yeah.
and under recovering. It's extreme, but I think there's a lot of truth to it,
Mhm.
and that like a lot of the issues that people run into is just relative energy insufficiency. And even if you're eating a lot of calories, like for your well, it seems like a lot of calories based on your activity level and that sort of thing, it may not be as many as you think. So I think a big piece of advice for people, especially that are hybrid athletes, like if you're trying to balance the cardio volume and the lifting, like just eat your fucking carbs. Like just
Yeah.
get just get them in. Like um, you're gonna have a hard time getting too many. Like I'm big on some of the like cyclic dextrin powders and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
me
Like I'll
too.
I'll have 100+ grams
During
during a
training?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, especially during the cardio sessions. And it's not, and I was kind of resistant to the idea for a long time. Like when I was quite a bit younger, I viewed it as like a weakness of like, I don't need it. You know what I mean? So I'd like push through sessions because I'm like, I'm gonna be tougher if I can get through it without fuel or whatever. And now I'm like, oh, this is so stupid of me. Because if I want the workout to be harder, I can just train harder.
Yeah, yeah, you make it harder,
Like
yeah.
I can just train harder. So like, but yeah, just fueling more and training harder, I feel so much better. And like there's sessions I could get through without it, but like some of my longer runs that I'll have 100 to 150 grams of carbs per hour during a longer run, I can still push hard during the run and I won't feel like shit after. And like I'd gotten so used to in the past of like, oh, it's long run day, you're gonna feel like shit afterwards. Like it's just this thing that you accept. But it's like it doesn't have to be that way. Like if you feel appropriately, you can do a big effort and like still feel like going for a walk later and like not hating yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of similar in bodybuilding too. Like it's you could train like it's not that the like, people you could train with just as much as you want, but eventually you just can't eat enough food to to like get your body to grow anymore at all. That's really the
Yeah.
main issue. Anything else on here? So something that you mentioned, actually, I wanted to bring up. I saw one of your posts that you like. I don't know if it was like your best time ever, but you did a really good time, and it was better than your Boston Marathon time. And you said you had like how much more muscle? 30 pounds, 20 pounds?
Yeah, like 30 to 35 pounds more. Yeah.
And so, like, were you purposely trying to add muscle to get faster, or it just kind of happened? Because you were already working out, right? Like you were lifting weights pretty heavy before, weren't you?
Yeah, so like I'm a smaller guy. Like I graduated high school at like 125, so like I'm definitely on the a lighter side now. I'm closer to 165. Actually, I got above 170 for a little bit earlier this week, and I think I'm now like high 160. So I've been continuing to try to add mass slowly and surely, which I know like 165 to 170 doesn't sound big, but being 5'5", coming from
Well, coming
125,
from
like
125, yeah.
it's a big difference compared to where I was at. And so I've been lifting for a little bit. I ran what was a PR at the time, Boston Marathon 2013. I weighed about 132 to 135 or so at the time. And that's when I was taking running more seriously. I was probably like 80-20 runner lifter at that point. And shortly after that, like I got much more into the lifting side and eventually probably got more towards like 80-20 lifter runner for a couple of years. And I think I just kind of told myself like that's my PR. Like that's the best marathon I'll ever run because I had like
Yeah.
put on so much weight. I'd gotten much more
Yeah.
into the lifting side. Like I didn't think I would see some of those numbers again. Um, so yeah, I just kind of figured I would never get much faster than that. Um, but like over the last 3-4 years, been pushing cardio more and more, kind of transitioning back towards like a little bit more running. I've been 80-20 runner in the past, 80-20 lifter in the past. Spent a lot of time closer to like 50-50. I'd say this year and last year, so like for the last 2 years, probably more like 60-40 in favor of running. So been doing more running as of late and trained really hard for big mountain race last year. And I had this experience training specifically for a mountain race, doing a lot of incline running and a lot of stair climbing. Um, I just was able to accrue more volume and more like moderate to high intensity volume on some of those modalities and like running uphill versus running on flat pavement that was the hardest I've ever trained. Like as an endurance athlete, even looking back when I was much lighter, just in terms of what I could tolerate from like a volume and intensity perspective, just being able to do more of the training uphill was so much more tolerable. It was easier to recover from, less impact, all that kind of stuff. Uh, and so I did this race, did great at the uphill race, and I was like, I feel really fit. Like I wonder what I could do on flat ground. And so I just signed up for the local marathon. It was like 3 weeks later and did it and PR'd. And I like hadn't even been training for flat marathons. I just did the hardest training program I'd
Yeah.
ever done of incline running. And it was kind of like a two-part lesson of like one, I could train harder, like just because I'm bigger and just because I am like doing all the strength training doesn't mean I can't still like put in that sort of like training volume and intensity. Um, like I'd always balanced running and lifting, so it's funny that like I had to learn the lesson myself, but it was just like a reminder of like you can do more than you think you can do. Like
Yeah.
because like I was able to push the running more and like still continue to progress in the gym, probably even more than I thought I could, even though I like my whole career is telling people like you can do both
Right.
things. I was like even I could do more than I thought I could do, right? Um, but then also just the difference in terms of recovery, like I don't think I appreciated how much easier it is to recover from like a long like 2 hour workout on 10% incline versus flat ground. Like the impact is so different that usually like some of these workouts, like a 2 hour tempo run, like a long marathon pace effort on flat pavement, I don't want to lift the next day. Like
Yeah.
I definitely want a rest day. And even like 48 hours later, my legs might still be a little bit sluggish. But with some of the incline stuff I was doing, I would like hammer a 2 hour incline session and like feel fine doing legs the next day. And it's like that was a crazy experience for me. And so this year I've just been continuing to like I'm like incline is the way kind of thing. Like you got to balance it. You got to get the specificity in there, but just like pushing some more of the incline work, and doing more like moderate to high intensity cross training on top of it. I've just been able to get so much more quality and like still feel good in the gym versus like having to be a little bit more strategic of like, oh, it's a long run day, like I can't do legs tomorrow. It just kind of gives me more freedom and flexibility in my program too.
I use the Stairmaster just for like one prep. I usually don't have to do that much cardio. I just killed myself during that. And yeah, I haven't felt that level of fitness since then. And it's been a long time since I was doing 45 and 20 like twice a day. So I mean, that's only an hour, but on the
Yeah,
stair clipping at 9 or 10 or 11 like that was I haven't felt that in a long
that's pretty
time.
good though. If you're doing an hour a day,
Well, it was 45 minutes and then 20 minutes after the workout. So 45 in the morning and then 20 minutes post workout.
that's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty good
I don't do
for.
that shit no more. Prep starts tomorrow. I don't think my guy's gonna have me do that, but I really I like to do shit outside. Like you said, most bodybuilders don't run. Especially now that I can run, I fucking love running. Like that's my favorite thing. And I'm not such a big bodybuilder that it's like doing damage and like fucking me up and making me lose mass. I mean, I understand these guys that are like 300 pounds. That's probably not the
Yeah, yeah,
best
yeah.
option for them. But yeah, I'll
Well,
keep it.
I got into mountain biking too, which was great because like it's create the time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
Like you get out on a trail and have fun. You're like, I've been riding for 3 hours. Like, how in the world did that happen? So doing some mountain biking over the summers too is like you can just accrue so much volume like without even thinking about it when you're having fun. It's totally different.
I know. I want to get back after I stop competing. I'm going to do all the fun shit again. Have you ever had a bad injury mountain biking? Because I know some people that
Yeah.
fuck themselves up. What was your injury mountain biking?
Just a bunch of just falls and shit. Like
Yeah.
I've like busted up my knee and stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna hurt for a while. And like I have some like little aches and pains and stuff from like different bike crashes. Like I separated my AC joint in the bike crash a couple years ago, and like just last month, like the last month or two, I was like, this feels kind of weird this month. Like it hasn't bothered me in a long time, but I'm like, it's from that bike crash a couple years ago. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know, it comes with the territory. Like I know some of that stuff's gonna happen. I try to be smart, but like shit's gonna happen too.
Yeah, and that's something that I tell like bodybuilders. Like if you're just bodybuilding, you're in like completely controlled environment. You really shouldn't be fucking yourself up that much.
Yeah,
We're not even pushing powerlifter one rep maxes. Like we're very controlled. We're not getting extreme ranges of motion. Like if you're fucking yourself up, usually I mean it's either load managed or your technique's just fucking awful. We have no
yeah,
excuse to be constantly hurt like so many people are. I had a client, she was a big mountain biker and she was like really fit. And she had a couple of injuries, but the one that really fucked her was she just shattered her elbow like in a million pieces. And it's like that was a
yeah,
gnarly surgery. She had to be here for like 6 months and never was the same after. So just as someone who's competing, it's like I'm not like so risk averse that I'm gonna like don't want to do anything for my life. But if something takes me out even for like a few weeks, like it's gonna fuck my chances up of like getting my pro
yeah.
card. You know?
I was so proud of her. One of my clients, I like saw the message preview, and it was like, "Hey, bad news! I broke my leg. Dot 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 or whatever." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, one, she broke her leg, and like, two, like, she's probably not gonna be training anymore too. But she broke her leg in a bike accident. But like the first thing she said, she's like, "I broke my leg in a bike crash today. We're gonna have to figure out how I can keep training around it." It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
like that's the right mindset. You know what I mean? So like we trained her around it, and like she was back on her feet, and she's back out on the bike, which I think is always impressive when people have like a truly catastrophic injury and just like get back out there like that. It's got to be such a mind fuck.
Yeah, they usually go that way. A lot of times, it's rare that I see them get completely risk adverse to whatever it was that fucked them up. Whether it's motorcycles, or I know some people that like scuba dive had some scary stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm kind of a pussy. I
Yeah,
think if I have a close call, I'm tapping out.
yeah, for sure. I've definitely had my. Luckily, I haven't broken a leg, but like the shoulder was pretty shitty on the bike for sure. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, you just get back out there and you lie to yourself, and you're like, ah, it won't happen again. But like something's gonna happen again.
Yeah, and then if you, because you're right, if you get too in your head, you're gonna fucking cause it. You know what I mean? You're gonna do
Yeah.
something, be too cautious when you shouldn't be.
Well, I can't imagine with the like a broken leg because even after the shoulder, like getting back out there, I could definitely like I was guarded. I was like biking slow and like I'm like just relax, like you can do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
It's kind of the same thing with people that have back pain, right? Like they get too in their head about it, and then they end up restricting their movement too much and re-injuring or something.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The worst one. There's little things and it's like just lessons that you have to learn. And it's like, man, someone should have told me that. I went mountain biking in like not in biking clothes, I was just like in street clothes. And I went off like this jump and my bike seat got caught in my shorts because
Oh
like
shit.
I shouldn't have been biking in those shorts.
Yeah.
And it looked so dumb because I just like go off of the jump and then I can't, I'm like stuck on the seat and I just like fall to the side and I'm like, well that fucking sucked. That hurt. But yeah.
Because it was avoidable. That's the worst. But you know, like I could have avoided that just by doing something that makes common sense.
Yeah, it's funny though. I have a meme about this I posted a couple times of like people getting so worried about injuries and stuff in the gym where it's like you said it's a controlled environment. It's super safe. Like there's always some level of risk, but like knowing that I'm out here like I busted up my knee. I fell skateboarding a couple weeks ago. It's like if you do this kind of stuff, like the gym in comparison
Yeah.
is like it's such a small risk. Like I think it's funny that people even think about it as much as they do.
Exactly. No, that's my whole philosophy. Now, one thing real quick before I let you go, I'm always interested in like talking to you guys because I'm like 90% in person. That's where I'll make my money. I live in a very high cost of living area, luckily, so I can charge a lot in
Yeah.
person. But I am starting to get some more revenue streams, and I always like getting your guys' kind of point of views because it's everyone's got different setups, right? Like some people have courses that they do, some people do a lot of traveling and seminars, some people have a lot of passive money through like their apps. So what are your main revenue streams? You have the in-person, which is kind of a minor one, right? That's only one day a week.
Yeah, in person is minor and the money's helpful for sure. But I withhold all of it. I just use like my in person. Like I don't even I try not to think about it. I just have that all set aside for like
Yeah.
savings and stuff like that.
That's like the
Um
opposite of me. I have all my online stuff like that.
yeah. Which it's funny because people will be like, "Hey, don't I like need to pay again?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I should probably pay."
Same here.
Yeah, so I have that, which is a small piece, and then I have like online one-on-one, which is maybe 40%, I'd say at this point.
How many people do you do at once? Because I have a hard time with that, with what I do.
Well, it gets easier, for sure, depending on like how long a person has been with you, and like
Yeah.
you have this experience in person too of like when you're working with someone for the first time, like you're really on, you're really focused. It's like a lot more intense of a session than like a regular that you've been seeing for a year. You're
Yeah.
still there and you're focused and you're attentive, but it's not like the same level of mental energy and demand as someone who's there for the first time. And you definitely see that with online training, where
Yeah.
someone that like I have some online clients that have been with me for like 10 years, and like they just they show up to do the work. They're super easy. Like at that point, they don't really have a lot of questions after they've been working with you for 10 years. They like just they want the program, you look at the results, you update it. It's simple. And then you have new people, you have people that are there to learn. You have people that you know that they're like they can't afford it ongoing. They want to squeeze as much out of it as they can in like a month and ask all the questions kind of thing. So like you have some people that could be take 5 to 10 times as much time as someone else. And I think the longer you do it, you're going to start to like shift and have more of those like long-term people that are a lot easier. So like your roster capacity will probably grow as like the clients turn over and you get to have some more long-term people. So I try not to have more than like just a handful of new people at once because it just is a lot
Yeah.
more demanding. But because I've turned over so many clients over the years and have a lot of really long-term people, I can have a roster of like 75 people
Yeah.
and tolerate that pretty well. Whereas when I started, like my first couple of years, I had like 30 people, and I'm like, this is it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I have six. 'Cause- Well,
Yeah.
actually, what I started doing, and you can tell me if you've ever done anything like this, is I gotta like update shit so often, and I'm so like connected. Like a lot of what I do is like I need instant feedback on certain things, so I kind of started doing like two tiers where you can just contact me, you get full personalized, and the other one is more like a weekly thing. You can send this, we'll do the programming, but like don't fucking bug me that much. Is
Yeah,
that something
yeah.
you do at all, or you have everybody like at the same kind of access level to you?
I tried the tiered approach and I for like I'm sure it works for some people. To me, there was like too much gray of like trying to figure out like who was in what box and like is this person like getting what they're paying for versus like you know what I mean? Like that was just a
Yeah,
little bit tricky for me to balance. So I just do kind of one tier. For my demand and experience, my price is relatively low. So it's lower touch than some other people.
what are you
Like
charging?
209 per month.
Okay. And then what is the app that you use? Are you using an app to like send out programming?
Yeah, I use True Coach.
True Coach? Cool, cool.
Yeah, True Coach, God, they like keep raising their prices. Like you guys are nuts, but like I keep paying it, so I
Yeah.
can't complain.
I use Everfit. I don't have many complaints about them. I use True Coach. I just don't like the layout for True Coach from the
Really?
client side that much. Yeah, I don't know. It's not the most aesthetic. It's fine though. It does what it needs to do easily, you know.
Yeah, there's like pros and cons to all of them. Like I've used some like for example, Train Heroic and Trainerize, like the ones that they have places for you to put in like sets and reps and it'll calculate like an E1RM and all that kind of stuff is pretty nice. But like some people don't want or need all the features. True Coach is a little
Yeah.
bit more like open form text based, which generally works pretty well for me in my programming style. I do wish that they had cardio integration. I used to use Training Peaks, which is like the go-to for endurance athletes and endurance coaches. Um, but they weren't as good with like being able to put in strength stuff. So like with every platform, there's like something great about
Yeah.
it and something not so great.
And so what else do you have? You have some like just programming that people can buy separate too, right?
Yes, yeah. So I have a couple of subscription programs. My original one is called Sex and Zombies.
Yeah, what is
Um,
that? I see that. I don't know anything about it. I was like, I'll wait for him to tell me what
yeah,
Sex and Zombies is.
yeah. So that's like the first subscription program I ever made, and it has two options. But um, basically, like the long story short version of like how I got the name was there's like this crazy fit dude at my gym who like everyone was intimidated by because he used to be like a linebacker for some Big Ten school. Like he's a big dude. But now he looks like Tarzan. He's like long hair. He's tan, and he's in this like kind of affluent area commercial gym, a Lifetime, where like
Yeah.
they play like soft music or whatever, and most people in
Right.
there are old. He's like 6'5", like 250, doing like four plates for reps on bench, and
Oh
then
shit.
like sprinting across the gym and doing something on the cable and like running back and benching four plates. More like just kind of crazy activities. And it's like, what is this guy training for? Like, what is he doing? Because some of the stuff was just nuts, but he's like huge and jacked too. So like one day I'm like kind of following him out of the gym. I'm like, hey dude, like never met you before. What's your name? Like, and what are you training for? And he just like looks me dead in the eye, like he's so serious. And he just said sex and zombies. And I like started laughing. I'm like, dude, what did you just say? He's like, I just want to look good naked and like be prepared for the zombie apocalypse. I'm like, don't we all, you know? Like that's kind of what a lot of us are training for, I think. And it resonated with me. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like I feel like I got a title of program that. Um
Yeah, that's great.
so that's how I came up with the name is this dude, his name's Tim from the gym. But the idea is just like a very well-rounded GPP program. So if you just want to be kind of good at everything, which is kind of what people follow me for, because I'm pretty good at most things. I'm not like a super specialized athlete.
Dude, do you
You
have a
know,
world record in something?
I got a I got a world record at the Murph. I run ultras, but like I don't specialize in like I'm not a power lifter.
Yeah.
People would be like, "What's your SPD?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't. It's not like. So that's kind of what the program is about. Is just like I'd say if anything, it biases physique a little bit, but like there's some plyometrics, there's some jumps and sprints. There's a couple of odd lifts. It's just kind of like how I want to train. Like my whole thing when I released the program was like I don't want to try to figure out what the people want. I just want to write the program that I would want. And then hopefully people also are out there that want that sort of program. So like ultimately it's just kind of like the programming style that I personally follow and adhere to for a lot of my general goals. And I just put it out there for people. But it's split into two. I have like basically what I do, which is the 6 day a week, like full program, and then I have a 3 day a week minimalistic version for people that don't have as much time. So
Yeah.
you get to choose between those two. And then I have a third program now called Thick and Quick, which is more running focused, which is basically like straight running slash physique of like you want to be a fast runner, but still want to be muscular. So yeah, sex and zombies, two options, and then Thick and Quick on top of that. Thick and Quick then separates out by race distance. So you get to put in
Okay.
5K, half marathon, marathon, and all that kind of stuff and get the numbers right.
And so it gives you like specific training for whichever event you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so are you using Train Heroic for this? I'm sorry, you said use Train Heroic?
Yeah, so Train Heroic for Sex and Zombies. And Sex and Zombies is like an ongoing, like the program updates every week kind of thing. And then Thick and Quick is it's a standalone. So the programming itself is a little bit more um kind of broken down into, like I said, race distance and experience level. So you can put beginner, intermediate, advanced, 5K, half marathon, marathon. So there's a lot more different options to personalize it. But then it's a fixed
Like
16
a
week prep
one-time
for,
payment?
yeah.
How much is that and how much is the Sex and Zombies? The Zombies is recurring. You said it keeps updating, right?
Yeah. So Sex and Zombies, the full one, starts at 29 a month, and then you get I do a pretty aggressive discount for a year. Can't remember what it is, but
Yeah.
it's pretty aggressive. And then the minimalistic version, it's half the workouts, half the price, do 15 bucks a month. And then Thick and Quick, it's actually part of the Ganbaru ecosystem that Eugene
Okay.
Teo has.
Yeah.
So you can do it actually subscription or one time. So you get to choose. If you do the subscription, you get access to all of the programs, and it's like 35 bucks a month, but there's like hundreds of programs in there
Like
now, and mine
everybody's
is one.
programs on there. You're talking about? Okay, yeah, yeah.
Everyone's program is on there, so it's
Yeah.
pretty slick. But then if you're like, nah, I'd seriously just want this one, I think you can buy it for like 50 bucks.
Oh, cool, cool. So, and then you travel. Do you do speaking engagements, or are you more just traveling to do like events?
So I just started trying to ramp up the travel for my YouTube channel. So my goal with the YouTube channel, in part driven by some other YouTube content I've seen where like coaches and influencers and stuff will like go do collabs and like workouts with other
Yeah.
people.
You,
But what
you know
I've
I'm doing one with Atlas. We're gonna do the odd lift. I'm gonna go up there and
Oh,
see.
good, good. Because
Yeah.
what I've seen, I don't want to like call people out and like say their content shit or anything like that. But what I haven't liked about a lot of the stuff that I have seen is like it seems very theatrical and like it's all for the gram and like for the tube and whatever.
Like Mike
And
and shit.
and it's just like it doesn't feel like this isn't what people actually do. This isn't how people actually train. Like it's you're putting out entertainment, not like education or like a real workout. So like my goal with it is like I want to go train with people that I respect that I think are smart and like just actually train with them. Like let's just this is just what we do when we work out and we just talk sort of like we're doing now, like with the podcast, we just kind of talk casually, but just like while doing a workout. And then maybe we talk about like, oh yeah, how do you cue this? Or like, what do you like about this setup? And like some of that stuff will get mixed into it. But ultimately, I just want to show people like this is good, real training and like conversations with real experienced coaches. So that's what it's all about. And I've done 10 episodes
Oh,
now.
cool.
So I'm always trying to travel and trying to do like one or two of those a month now.
Nice. What's your next one you got lined up?
Next one, I have one in May scheduled with Jordan Syatt, who does a lot of like uh, kind of like entry level and like general population programming. So that should be a good one. I'm thinking about going out to San Francisco, possibly in April, because there's like 4 or 5 people like all in the Bay Area that I think would be great. Um, I know Alice wants me to come work out with him in SoCal, which I think you're
Yeah.
pretty close there, so maybe we get in a
Yeah.
session too. But yeah, I got to get some more on the calendar for sure. I just finished up a string of them. Got to plan out the rest of the season though.
You haven't uploaded those ones yet?
Just uploaded one last week, so I actually I turned them around pretty quick. Did one with Alyssa Olenek, she's like female
Yeah, I saw that
physiology
one.
PhD.
Yeah.
So I recorded that and posted that last week. And then before that, I think it was in Miami like 2 weeks before that. So yeah, I have a vacation actually this month, so the next 2 weeks don't work for filming. So now I got to figure out what I'm doing in April.
Where you taking a vacation? Where are you going?
Yeah, going skiing actually. Going skiing in
Oh,
Montana next week.
oh, cool. Big Sky or where?
Yeah, yeah, big
Oh,
say.
that's
It should be
great.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Really
Yeah.
cool. When you do your videos, are you doing the editing yourself? You have somebody who does all the editing?
Doing it all myself and making plenty of mistakes and learning plenty of lessons in the process.
It's
It's
a
funny because
long process.
a lot of the mistakes I make, I'll like run into some issue with it and I like will Google it and it's like only the dumbest people in the world like do this thing that I've done,
That's
I've
me.
done.
Dude, that's me too. I'm probably way worse. I've fucked up everything you could fuck up in this process.
Oh, well, there's so many things with like I know people use different software. I use Adobe and there's just like certain settings you want to check and like things you want to do. Apparently you're not supposed to edit files directly on the SD card from the camera. You need to like
Yeah,
move the files from the card to the computer and
I
then
have fucked that
edit.
up.
Yeah, I was like editing straight on the SD card, wondering why stuff was slow, and everyone's like, "Yeah, you're such an idiot." Like, yeah, for sure.
What about you? Do you have a camera person that comes out there with you? Who runs the camera?
No, it's super low budget. I just got a one of those DJI Osmo pocket cameras. I was thinking about getting a second one. They're like 500
Yeah,
bucks. It's not.
yeah,
I was thinking about getting a second one to be able to have like, one per
yeah.
person
That'd
or
probably be worth it, or just different
different
angles.
angles.
Yeah, especially if you're
Yeah.
working out, you can get like a cut to one view and then show the other. If there's, technique wise.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just got one of those. I think I'm gonna get a second one. And then I got like the Rode mics and stuff hooked up to that. But so it's pretty low budget. And like, yeah, I'd probably get some more views if I went high end with it, but like it's a pretty new channel and like it's not like bringing in thousands of dollars of video
Yeah.
or anything at this point. So at some point I'm sure I'll upgrade or maybe hire a videographer, but like I think low budget's pretty good for right now.
Yeah, I don't think I would have a videographer if I had to pay for him. I have a client who I've been training for ever for fucking 14 years, 15 years, and he does like big time vids for like these huge influencers, and I'll just throw him a session here or there, and it's like very
There you
good in my
go.
favor. Yeah, he'll go with me to Vegas. He'll film the stuff I do with Sergio and stuff, but yeah,
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
think that like it's interesting, right? Because different people do so much better on different social media platforms, depending on how their content can be like received, right? Like I don't can't do anything on TikTok. I'm not a TikToker. I'm not a short form fast guy. And it's like
Yeah,
people think you have to have this huge following to like actually make a living in social media, like using social media. But it's like I don't have shit, but my people are really into what I do, and I have consults on hold. Like anytime I want, I could plug in a 30 or 60 minute consult. And I think a lot of people that are trying to do this, they might think I have to hit 100,000 on YouTube or something to actually like start making money and to have an impact on people. But
that's the thing. Like with my one-on-one client business, like it's seriously it's such a quality over quantity game. Like my coaching business, it was sold out and waitlisted when I had less than 10,000 followers on Instagram. It's
yeah,
like if you actually find the right niche and find your audience, like you don't have to be famous or whatever
yeah.
to have a good business. Obviously, it is more of a numbers game if you're trying to make money on
It's
like
just
ad revenue and
general.
stuff like that.
Yeah, or if
But
you have
like
no specific niche and you're just a general fitness person, like you got a lot of people to fight against.
yeah, well, I've talked to like I know a guy personally who has like almost 500,000 followers on Instagram. He's like, dude, help me. I can't make money on this. I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, that sucks. Like when you get into that like super general like niche, it's like there's so many, the competition is so it's so saturated.
Yeah, and a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of like low ballers in that niche too, like in like pain management niche where I'm at, it's like people are used to seeing high prices, so it doesn't really like scare them as much.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, not that you can't do it, and like there's obviously people who do it, but like that's super general broad, like it's so hard. Like
And
you
that's
gotta
when
find
like your appearance becomes even more important. You got to like look the role if you're just talking to the general public about general fitness and
yeah.
you know,
Plus, like, not like I don't get me wrong, I love it. Like I'm big enough now that like I every once in a while I'll have someone that like recognizes me in a gym or something,
yeah.
and like it's always cool. But like I would rather not like have that times 100.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't want to have like 10 million followers and like I don't know. I'd rather be like obscure.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also when you get so big, you get to Mike's level. I mean, Mike created a lot of the issues himself, but if you just get like so big, you're gonna just have hate. It's just gonna come no matter
I
what. If
was
you're
I was thinking about that today actually. Just like it's like a psychological phenomenon where like I think the bigger you get, the more people want to see you fall and be wrong because it like it is good for their ego. Because like if you can find someone that has a million followers and you find the fault or a way that you think they're wrong and that you're right, in your brain, you're like able to say that like you are as important or better. And like the bigger those people get, the more people want them to be wrong because the more it feeds their personal egos. So like when you see someone like Mike, it's like it just makes people feel good about themselves for Mike to be wrong. And
for a certain
like
extent, but then you have his own fans who are now like, I'm so disappointed in Mike. Like just
yeah.
over the last year.
Oh man, it's been funny. Yeah, you've had some good videos on him. Of course, there's like the Lyle McDonald and Greg
Yeah.
Doucette videos, and like some of those have been nuts. But I think it's been entertaining for everyone except for maybe Mike, but he's doing fine.
Did you see that him and Greg squashed their beef or
I did.
whatever?
I did.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Well, Greg is already. I don't know if Greg's bought into
Well, he did put out, I heard, I think he put out some of those bits already, but I think he did try to tone it down a little bit. But yeah, we'll see.
it.
But people were calling me like a slightly more like educated Greg Doucette. I was like, I'm not trying to hate on
Yeah.
everything. Just the way he fucking does a select bit of movements are just dog shit. I was like, I'm not gonna like
Yeah,
be the over.
I get the like entertainment value in the editing and like Greg's Blue Lobster shit and like all that. Like it's fun. I get it. It's funny. It's just not me. Like I'm not gonna go like attacking people as humans and like just try to drag down their whole content and see everything wrong they've ever done. And like I don't know. I just don't really care that much. It's
Yeah.
funny when someone else does it sometimes, but like
That's
I,
pretty much the only one. I guess Tregilly, there's a couple, but I don't feel bad about one or two. But yeah, in general, like I don't like you want to spread positivity more than negativity.
yeah, that's like I made a little video on it where it's like I covered some critique videos of Mike that I thought were actually dumb. I'm like, you're critiquing things about Mike that like aren't, there's actually nothing wrong with that. You just don't like him. You know,
What were
like
they
if
critiquing?
someone was saying that like Mike was he wasn't an expert, like wasn't science based because he wasn't doing lat pull downs at like 120 degrees. He was actually going like he was doing lat pull overhead, and they're like trying to say that like he didn't know what he was doing, and that's like not how you train your lats or whatever. And I'm like, that's so like you can do a lat pull,
Well,
like it's just a
yeah.
lat pull, dude. Like,
Come on, don't overthink.
whatever.
It's all these like these young kids with their face popped
Yes.
up, like with
Yeah.
no muscle, like talking shit, like that.
Exactly. And then another one, there was another one critiquing his form, which like maybe it wasn't perfect. It was his technique on like a chest supported row, but like it was also kind of a shitty machine, and like he's traveling, and I'm like that machine just isn't great. Like there's only so much you can do with that machine. So like his shoulder, like his when he pulled, his arms were coming in, so he had like more like a significant amount of
Yeah.
elbow flexion. And the person was trying to say like he's not doing a back workout, he's doing a bicep workout here. And I'm like,
Well, that's
I don't
Trigilli.
know.
That fuck face is an idiot, though.
I was like, I don't know, dude. Like it's kind of not the best machine for him, but like I think his back is getting a pretty good
Dude, I actually
stimulus.
commented on that exact post, I because I fucking hate both of them, but I commented on that exact post. I was like, Trigilli, like for the love of God, like Mike has so much shit you could actually critique as far as the form. This isn't bad.
Exactly. That exactly.
I was like, even you can still even fuck this up. The one thing I've been waiting for. Remember
That
exactly what
was
you're talking about.
that was the point of my video is like a lot of the critiques I've seen are people like that trying to like look smart. And I'm like, there's things to critique, but that's not it, you know? And like I want to focus on the things that are actually going to like help and educate people, not like whether he reached past 120 degrees on lat training.
Yeah, you probably don't get like any hate with your followers hardly at all, right?
No, I've been pretty lucky with that. I feel like maybe I should try harder to get some because I feel like it's it's pretty good for the engagement, right? But I feel like for the most part, people are pretty cool. I've had a few random ones. I'll get political sometimes. Like I'm not afraid to like speak my mind on political issues. So sometimes I'll get people that just like don't like me because of something I've said about that.
What
But
do you say
like
that pisses them off? You super liberal or what?
people will think I'm super liberal. They don't even know. Like I'll talk about like trans rights or free Palestine or something, and I'll like make some enemies with that kind of stuff. But like most people don't even know what
Is the
my
Free
views are.
Palestine the liberal or the conservative view? That's the liberal view. Wait,
That's the
I forget.
liberal. Yeah,
That's the
it's
liberal.
traditionally a liberal view. Yeah, it's yeah. I think that the conservative view is they want to build a new Las Vegas out in Gaza.
The most controversial, interview I ever did, actually, maybe the second most. People really did not like the scientific snitch. I like her a lot. She was nice.
I do too. I do too. I kind of want to get her on an episode. I've like there's been little things that I've disagreed, like mostly in just like the way she's communicated certain concepts where like I probably would have said it a little bit differently. But I think by and large her content is pretty good. And like I thought some of the Atlas's critiques of her were unfair.
Yeah, and Alice goes pretty hard, and that is either the most controversial or the one I had with the trans bodybuilder. Did you ever see that?
No,
Like,
I
I'm
didn't.
sure you did watch it, but I have it posted. So there's this guy who he worked with a really well-known coach that I respect a lot, and he looks fucking amazing. He competes in classic physique. You know the different divisions
Yeah.
at all? Yeah. So, I mean, you got to think about it. He has a woman's frame, and he transitioned like really early. Like he was like as a like, had the puberty blockers, had the surgery really young. So
Yeah, yeah.
he looks you would never think, and then he has the frame of like a woman, but the muscle density of like a guy, and he won his show, and like
That's
he
crazy
looks
though.
really crazy. And I had him on, and I talked to him, and it was such a good podcast. It was, I mean, from my perspective, it was one of the best interviews I've had, and it was really like awesome. I liked it a lot, but fucking people got so mad, and I lost. You
I'll
can
have to
see,
check that out.
I can see like how many subscribers I lost, and I'm like, they're like, you're just so liberal. I'm like I literally, if you watch the video, he's talking about how he believes being trans is 100% a mental disorder. Like there's nothing there's nothing like biological about it. Like that's not a very liberal perspective. I was like, I'm just letting somebody tell their story, and now you're gonna like now you'll never listen to anything
Yeah,
else I have to say again.
that's
Like,
crazy. People get so like worked up about that. Like if you're, I don't know, like there's if you're just letting people speak their mind and like you're just asking for someone's story and that kind of stuff, like I don't understand how someone could get that upset with you. Um, I'm not like completely against the idea of like cancel culture and all that kind of stuff. Like if you're actually like an aberrant human being and like,
yeah. Well,
like
usually society works that out. You know what I mean? If you're such a piece of shit,
yeah,
usually.
usually, or you become like the president or something, but like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Uh,
most politicians that reach that level, they probably qualify as pieces of shit one way or the other.
it's crazy. Yeah, the people that are drawn to power, it's bizarre. But I think it's the exception, not the rule. Like I think overall, I think it's hard to go high places if you're that much of a piece of shit. I think that there's something unique
Yeah, just
about
politics.
politics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, because ever like most of the people, like there's a few, but like most of the like high, like most respected coaches, like high level athletes, like so many of the people I've talked with, like in this industry specifically, that have like gone to the
Yeah.
top are fucking they're great people. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Did you follow John Meadows at all? I mean, he was
Yeah,
fantastic. I loved it.
loved him.
Everyone loved him. Same exact thing. Obviously, he put out good info, but it's just his personality as well, you know.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Well, shit, man, this has been good. We've been on a couple of hours. I'll let you go. Is there anything else you want to touch on before I let you go?
No, dude,
Anything
that
you
was
want
fun.
to put out there? I mean, we kind of put out your programming and everything. That's pretty cool. I really
No,
like the way you set your stuff up. That'll give me some stuff to think about. I'm trying to work on some books and programs and shit. Try to make some more passive money, so it's just not all hustle, hustle, hustle in person. You know?
yeah, for sure. I mean, the only piece of advice I have is as far as that goes, like if I could start over and streamline it and that kind of stuff is just one, don't overwhelm people with options. I think it's tricky if you have like, you know, here are my offerings, and it's like 30 different things and
Yeah,
like 10 programs and 5 books and whatever. It's like you have a couple things. You have like coaching, a program or two, and like maybe an ebook or something. I think simple is good. Like don't give people too many choices and kind of spread the price points. So you have like, really cheap, mid-range, like something
yeah.
expensive. I think that's pretty good. But yeah, I love your stuff, man. I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. Where did it pop up from? I'm always curious where people stumble upon anything.
I think I found you via Atlas, actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Atlas
Atlas
has put
shared
a
one
lot
of
of
your YouTube
people.
videos. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Atlas and GVS. I got to thank them a lot. You know, when I first started, I was like all bodybuilders that were watching, and like I just put up a video I did with Sergio, and it's like saying like this is getting much less views than than your other videos, is because now it's like because of them, it's a little more of the natty like biomechanics crowd, which is cool. It's cool to have a diverse crowd.
It's tricky. I want to have a diverse crowd and like I just want to be able to make the content I want to make, but especially with like the YouTube channel. Like even this last one I did with Alyssa, I'm like, I just did a video on female physiology and my followers are 90% male. You know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah,
I want to make the video. Like it's a cool
exactly.
topic. And it did pretty well, like especially considering my followers are pretty much all dudes. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta make the content you want to make and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice to everyone who's trying to do anything social media wise. Do it for yourself, you know, and because then you'll actually be passionate about it, and it'll be better for like everybody, for the viewer and for whoever you're working with.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, that's a good note to close on. Thanks for having me. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Really good to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, take it easy, brother.